Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors. That's October 12th, 2021. Supervisor Half, would you care to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Hand over heart, ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here. So we're going to start out talking about our public participation procedures, and so I'll go ahead and give it over to our board clerk, and then we'll move on to public comment.
In order to protect the health and safety of our Tuolumne County citizens, this board meeting is open to the public with modifications. Face coverings are required for all attendees regardless of vaccination status. During the board meeting, citizens physically present who wish to provide public comment will be invited to do so by the board chair. Citizens who are not present and wish to comment should be prepared to use our call-in line at 209-533-6581 to queue for verbal public comment. Options for public access audio and video live streaming. The public will not have access for public comments via these media options. They are available for audio and visual only. First option is access Tuolumne County at www.accesstuolumne.org and click Watch Live, or Comcast Cable 8. Second option is Zoom webinar via your computer at https://zoom.us/j/987-378-5155, or you can call in at 1-669-900-9128 with webinar ID 987-3738-5155. Please note, Zoom webinar services tends to have a reduced broadcasting delay in comparison to the Access Tuolumne live stream and is suggested for the closest to real-time viewing and listening. Granicus live streaming through the county website is currently unavailable and pending a scheduled maintenance. Important public notice pursuant to AB 361, members of the Board of Supervisors can participate by teleconference. Accessibility requirements: if you need Swift special assistance during the board meeting, please call 209-533-6581.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Ryan. Our board values public participation and encourages community members to take this time to provide comment on matters of county interest. This section is for comment not related to items on the listed agenda. The public comment time limit of 3 minutes per speaker applies, and no action may be taken by the board on topics discussed. Your board members are listening carefully to these comments and appreciate you taking the time to make a personal investment in our community. So with that, I'll invite anyone that has any comments that are not on the agenda. You can come up to the podium now and have 3 minutes to speak. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. You want the masks on when you can hear us? Okay. Good morning. My name is Diane Bennett, and I'm Executive Coordinator for the Tuolumne Fire Safe Council. And the what you say? What's the Tuolumne Fire Safe Council? It is the new name for the Highway 108 Fire Safe Council, as we are now a county-wide fire safe council, and more will be coming out on that later. I just want to share a couple of pieces of good news with you. First, Tuolumne County will be getting a new community wildfire protection plan. We received notice of funding award from CAL FIRE for a new one, something we have wanted in this county for a long time, since the last one was done in 2004. So this will definitely be a new plan and not just an update. And we really, really, really want community resident involvement in this process, which will be beginning next year. But the major news I'm here to tell you about is that the Tuolumne Fire Safe Council is the inaugural recipient of the California Fire Safe Council's Bruce Turberville Award. That is a statewide award. We received it for the North Tuolumne County Fuel Break System, and the prize was for a complicated, resource-intensive project, which this was. The North Tuolumne County Fuel Break System consists of over 40 individual, strategically placed, contiguous field break scanning 27 miles and over 3,000 acres treated. We estimated the cost over about 10 years has been $6 million. It covers the Tuolumne County geography from Ramblin Hills, Columbia to Lyons Dam, and then from Apple Colony, Tuolumne City, up to Lyons Dam. The field break system provides protection to the city of Sonora, population centers scattered throughout North Tuolumne County, and subdivisions and homes built in the wildland-urban interface. Protected infrastructure includes, and this is just a limited list, of the Tuolumne County Main Canal, schools, the hospital, Phoenix Lake Powerhouse, and Telegraph Hill. A success story of the field break system is the Big Hill East portion, which in 2015 basically slowed the progress of the Oak Fire, allowing retardant drops and firefighters to hold the fire at 127 acres. This fire was just 2 days before the Butte Fire in Calaveras County, and it could have spread up to Cedar Ridge. Also, the Sierra Outdoor School Cedar Ridge evacuation route, which is part of the system, was used to evacuate over 300 cars from the Big Hill area camps that were in the path of the fire, and there were no mishaps. And as we all know, wildfire mitigation is an ongoing resource-extensive project, so this is by no means the end of our work. But we're just so happy to have received this award, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And so if someone was interested in learning more about the Fire Safe Council, either finding ways to help in the community, how would they learn more information about that?
You can contact me at info@tuolumnefiresafe.org or Google Highway 108 Fire Safe Council, and that will put you into our webpage, www.tuolumnefiresafe.org, and you can contact us through that also.
Okay. Thank you very much for telling us about this, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair Campbell and supervisors. I'm Jen Lopez with Visit Tuolumne County, and I am here this morning to introduce a new resource that Visit Tuolumne County has developed for its members, partners, and stakeholders. It is a wildfire toolkit that is a way to support one another through effective and streamlined communication with visitors in the event of a wildfire and to help spread messaging about preventing wildfire. This toolkit puts important information about prevention and preparedness at the fingertips of our local businesses to share with visitors, and I know that that is a concern of many in the county, of visitors being prepared and helping to prevent wildfire. The toolkit includes a downloadable infographic highlighting ways for visitors and residents to help prevent wildfire, sample social media posts to share, talking points about what visitors should know about wildfire and other emergencies, links to Tuolumne County evacuation plan and the emergency preparedness video, and links to the official informational outlets, including the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Department, the Office of Emergency Services, who we emphasize are the sources of the official information in the event of a fire or other emergency. And we are proud to have gotten the support of the Tuolumne County Office of Emergency Services. Thank you, Dory, on this project, and this toolkit can be found on our website under the members tab. So it's visittuolumne.com/members, and there is a box there for wildfire toolkit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, all the speakers who've come up and left your mask on. I appreciate that. If you're on the TCTC board, your meeting tomorrow has been improperly noticed. So it'll be a Brown Act violation unless you fix it, PDQ. Your TCTA is okay. Our drug take-back day is going to be Saturday, October 23rd from 10 to 2. That's a National Drug Take-Back Day, and I have no information on Tuolumne County. There's nothing on anybody's website. I haven't seen any cards. I don't even know where it's going to be. So there's only 12 days left, so it would be nice if there was some info on that. If you're an educator, McDonald's is going to give you a free breakfast meal this week. So you can get an Egg McMuffin, a drink, and hash browns, or a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, or a sausage biscuit. And I appreciate that Supervisor Half gave the Pledge of Allegiance, but Ann is here, and you didn't invite her up to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I think you should invite Gus to come and do it one time too, so we can all meet him. Thank you.
Thank you. So, council, do you provide services for TCTC? Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else from the room that would like to speak? Okay, is there anyone on the phones that has called in that would like to speak? Okay, all right, well, with that, we'll go ahead and close oral communications. Thank you very much, everyone. Some good things going on in our county. Okay, so let's move on to staff reports. Are there any staff reports that are not on the agenda? Do we know of any staff reports expected? Okay, all right. Making it too easy. Okay, so we'll move on from staff reports to our consent calendar. I'll look to our board clerk. Would you please read our consent calendar this morning?
Item number 1, approving the minutes of the October 5th, 2021 meeting. Item number 2, accept the certification of results for the September 14, 2021 gubernatorial recall election. Item number 3, adopting resolution 98-21 for signature delegation to the district attorney for California Office of Emergency Services underserved program request for application. Item number 4, consideration of approving a certificate of acceptance of a grant deed correcting title to a portion of real property located at 20591 North Sunshine Road, Sonora, California. Item number 5, consideration of increasing the fleet manager compensation from range 438 E-step at $36.31 per hour to 468 at $42.17 per hour.
Okay, would any board member like to pull an item for discussion? Yes, Supervisor Kirk. Item 5, okay. Any other? Okay. Does anyone have any comment on the consent calendar? Okay, is there any public comment on the consent calendar accepting item 5? Okay, no public comment. Anyone on the phones? No one? Okay. All right, so bring it back to the board for a motion on the consent calendar minus item 5.
I'll motion to approve the amended consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion by Supervisor Brandon, second by Supervisor Goldenberg. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Ryan, would you please read item 5 once more for us?
Always got to pick the most difficult one. Consideration of increasing the fleet manager compensation from range 438 E-step at $36.31 per hour to 468 at $42.17 per hour.
All right, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Jason Terry with your County Administrator's Office. I have nearby as support Kim McFarland, your Public Works Director. And this item today is a staff recommendation of changing the pay range for the fleet manager approximately 15% from range 438 to range 468. And as is detailed in the memo, this is a position that we know we are going to have to fill sometime in the very near future. And as a salary survey was conducted on it, we saw how very far out of median and average this is across our 11 comparison counties. to the point that a 20 range increase, the only county that we would have a better compensation based on salary is Calaveras, and we would still be lower than the other 10 counties. At the staff recommended 30 range increase, that bumps us up one position past Amador County, still below Mariposa, Mono, and a lot of other counties. So in order to ensure that we can have a competitive environment when looking to fill this position and maintain the services that are offered for our fleet, which works with our public works fleet, our HHSA fleet, and our ambulance fleet, it is staff's recommendation that we increase this to range 468.
Thank you. Questions?
Sure. So have we tried to hire the position prior to considering bumping up the pay?
Well, currently the position is still filled. As we had heard earlier this year during one of our staff presentations, the fleet managing supervisor is looking to retire, but that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. The reason why I pulled this is, I mean, it's an important position. I understand the fleet affects every department. But, you know, we just kind of went through this with the human resources manager or director where we actually tried to hire the position. We found out we couldn't attract people because of our pay. So I felt justified to bump the pay after that. But in this case, we haven't flown it yet. We're currently in bargaining with other groups, and you know, the same logic. There's law enforcement, there's social services, there's other people that are critical positions as well that really need bumps in pay as well, but you know, we may not have the resources to do that. And then so for that reason, that's why I pulled it. I would kind of rather wait until we try and fly it and hire it and see if we can't get somebody in there. It's not a big deal, but it is kind of a big deal when the organization looks at this practice, the way we're doing this, and that's kind of where I feel a little uncomfortable. So
Is that all right if I just address
yeah,
that?
absolutely. You can.
So Kim McFarland, Director of Public Works. So we've actually lost 6 folks in fleet over the last 6 years, usually to competitive pay. Because Mike Young, who is currently our fleet manager, is going to be retiring, he takes with him 26 years of experience. He is really integral to the success of roads, and what we were hoping to do is actually dual fill his position for at least a month with someone who we'll have to replace him with eventually. So, and we have permission from the CAO for that. So I'm just hoping that we can actually eventually find someone at a more competitive rate and then have Mike, when he eventually decides to retire, actually teach what he knows to this person.
Okay. So somebody internally is going to be stepping up to.
We don't know that. It will actually be flown externally.
Okay.
So it could be an internal candidate, it could be an external candidate. So
I hear you, and I mean, you guys are the experts, and I don't want to undermine it. I just, like I said, for the reasons I stated, I kind of would rather go through a different process, but I'll see what the rest of the board has to say.
And one additional piece of information that I failed to state was that the department itself does have salary savings. There's no impact to the general fund through this department. So whether that information assists your board at all, that should be stated as well.
Yeah, and I can absolutely see your perspective on that. I get the it feels a bit like cherry picking, and that part of it, but I do tend to kind of support this because it's a unique position. It's someone, as you said, with 26 years. I thought it was 22, but 26 years of experience, pretty integral to that department. And if we can have them hang around for another 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to save us money in the long run because we'll be scrambling here in the near future to backfill that position, and it always costs so much more to find someone. So I do feel it makes fiscal sense to do this, not just setting aside the fact that this position is well out of the range for what they should be paid for this position. Setting that aside, it makes fiscal sense, I think, for the county to keep that experience in-house as long as we can. And I think 10% is pretty negligible in terms of the cost, but the savings in the long run, I think will make up for that by having that experience and being able to train the replacement properly. So that's where I stand.
I'll just weigh in as well. You know, when I'm looking at a position that's 25% below medium, 28% below average, and we're not just dealing with it here in this case, but, you know, in a number of other areas, we're in discussions and bargaining, you know, across the whole county structure. But, you know, when we look at certain positions, you know, we want to be able to attract people. And when it's that far down, then, you know, I feel that, you know, when we're second lowest in 11 counties, that, you know, we should be offering a better salary to attract the most qualified person.
And thank you. That actually reminded me of another point that I had, was that we're going to have to raise this pay rate anyway at some point. And so if we do it now, we're raising it and keeping that 26 years of experience. If we wait for this person to retire, then we're still going to have to raise the pay rate anyway. But we're going to be raising it for somebody who's coming in fresh. And so we're getting a major benefit from this from the county. Anyway, sorry. Anyone else?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. One, you mentioned that this could be paid for out of salary savings. Can you explain where those funds come from?
Well, the fleet department is not part of the general fund, and so within the fund that it resides, that there is savings, and so this fiscal year, we would be, oh, yeah.
Savings out of the Public Works Administration. We've had someone who left recently, and we're not going to be replacing that position, so we have a significant salary savings in there.
Okay, so this isn't a one-time fund that could then end up covering it this year, but next year, then we're gonna have to pay for it. That's my concern, is it might be free in one budget, but not free in the next.
So
Or not
this-
free, but,
No, this will be ongoing. We used to have 3 people in this division. Now it'll be down to 2, and so this will be a salary savings that goes on for a while.
okay. I tend to agree with Supervisor Kirk on this. We are in ongoing negotiations right now, and while I think where issues have arisen on a particular position, I feel like we need to follow the normal processes first. We did do that with the HR director, identified a need, we've tried to fill that position, and now we, even though it's ongoing with bargaining, did look at it because we were unable to fill it. And for me, it seems that we shouldn't be doing this proactively, I guess, on the issue until we've actually tried to fill that position. There may be somebody internally interested or externally still interested in it. It's not to say that, you know, it's not necessarily a good idea anywhere, but right now I just have some concerns with, I think, yeah, with doing that while we have ongoing bargaining. We haven't tried to recruit yet for that position. And one question too, I assume we don't have any type of guarantee that if we increase this, he'll end up staying for a period of time. With how retirement ends up working, if we increase this, does that substantially increase our PERS liability for that position?
Yes.
So, well, I think our county administrator could answer this better, but yes, there will be an impact over a long term, yes.
So it would increase our PERS for that position by 10% too, based on all the years that they've worked as well, right?
But based on what tier they are and how many years, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a concern to me too. You know, I know that can't be an agreement, but it seems like we could increase this and in the year still lose that position and lose that employee, and then end up paying 10% more for it and not being able to retain them. Whereas if they retire, we can maybe bring them on as a retired annuitant and still have access to maybe some of those resources, hopefully. So
Correct, but Supervisor, I would
yeah.
also say that, of course, eventually this is going to have to come closer, whether it's now, later, that the pay range is going to have to be addressed at some point, and so that liability will be there regardless. We might just delay it a year or two.
Yeah. Well, if if we hire a new fleet manager, we're starting over on the PERS and accumulation of retirement benefits. With somebody who already has those years, we're increasing the amount we would have paid for all those years by the highest amount they earned, right? Mm-hmm. And that's my concern, is we might be bumping it up right at the end, and then they end up leaving, our costs go up 10% instead of starting someone new who might get higher pay, but we've got 25 years.
Supervisor Brandon, I just wanted to speak to that. So in order for it to have the entire increase, for him to recognize that, he would need to work for, I believe Mike is on the classic tier, he would need to work 12 months. So if he stayed on for an entire year, yes, he would experience the full impact of that 10% if the board were to approve it. But if he were to only stay, say, for 3 to 6 months, then that would not be the case. It would be prorated based on the 12 highest months. And I know
Understood.
Debbie is here, I saw her in the back, so she would be our guru on PERS that could better explain that if you want more detail.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And thank you for the info on that. I did say 1 year, but I think I accidentally got it right. But with the, it's 1 year is very different than keeping them around for 5 or 6 years to be able to continue that. So those are just my concerns, and looking forward to hearing from the rest of the board.
Supervisor Haff?
Yeah, I do agree with Supervisor Kirk regarding this issue to some degree, and I'll have to use that caveat. On the other hand, I have a problem when we keep, especially a head of a department, not a department head, but somebody in this capacity at a certain level that is well below, and then only realize it's so far below after the fact. I'm thinking of Bob Price. And what a travesty that was, that, we realized after he had left, after he had retired, I forget how many, 30 some odd years, that we were way underpaying him. And I think it's a moral decision and an ethical decision as well. And I am in full favor of giving our fleet manager what he's due at this particular time. I think he deserves it. And so that's where I'm coming from.
All right, I did want to open it up and give the public a chance to weigh in. Is there any public comment on item 5?
Well, this makes a statement to your employees and your fleet manager. And I find it offensive and insulting that you would sit here and want to nitpick and argue with your staff when they make a recommendation and insult the man when he's sitting right here. So if he's clearly been underpaid for so long, then it seems to me you, out of some degree of kindness and fairness, acknowledge that.
Thank you.
One more point, and this is coming from my business background. We waste a lot of money recruiting and flying for positions that are underpaid, and then we wonder why we don't net any applications. And so let's not waste the public's money also on flying this whenever this man retires, if we don't give him this increase, and wonder again. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did want to say, is there any other public comment? Okay, close the public comment, bring it back to the board. Yes, and thank you very much, Supervisor Haff and Supervisor Goldenberg are bringing up points that I had planned on bringing up but forgot, and that's an excellent point, is that, the pay range is going to have to increase anyway, eventually at some point, and as you say, Mr. Terry, it's either this year or next year, somewhere within the next year or two, it's going to have to increase anyway, and we're going to take on that cost of hiring, and then that the ongoing liabilities are going to be there anyway, and by doing it now, the benefit that we're bringing to the county and to the community is that we're retaining an employee with an exceptional work history, track record, and ability to maintain consistency in that department. So this is not for nothing. It's not a favor. I mean, although this person has worked and certainly deserves it and certainly has earned it, the community, I think, is getting a really clear benefit out of this. So it's not just a gift. He earned it. So anyway, if there's no other discussion, any other discussion, otherwise I'll call for a vote.
I'd like
I do have a question real quick.
Okay.
Do we know how long the individual will be staying versus retiring? I mean, has that been any sort of agreement?
We think that we could encourage Mike to stay another year. But we haven't made any, there's no arm wrestling, there's no confirmations.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I just want to make a few comments. Carol, this isn't personal, this is business. Anything financially that comes before the board, it's our fiduciary responsibility to look at it. And if we have questions, ask those questions. And I think I've made my point very clear. There are lots of staff who are underpaid in this organization. There are lots of staff who I would love to give a 10% bump in pay. And so I'm just looking at this under the umbrella of trying to be firm, fair, and consistent. So I'll just leave it at that. But thank you guys for your effort and your time and your recommendation. To the gentleman, he's a professional, and this is just business, so.
Okay. Is there a motion? It seemed like.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we move on staff recommendation to increase the fleet manager's compensation by 15%.
Was it 15%?
It was.
Oh, okay.
A range 438 to 468 is approximately 15%.
So shouldn't the motion just be to approve of item 5, since it has to be specific, the right number?
I just went by the staff recommendation that's on the memo.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Have a motion by Supervisor Half, second by Supervisor Goldenberg. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. Motion and we don't need a 4/5, correct? Okay. So motion passes 3 ayes, 2 noes, with Supervisor Kirk and Supervisor Brandon voting no. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. So we're just moving down the line here. Item 6.
Item number 6, consideration of adopting Resolution 99-21 proclaiming October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Tuolumne County.
Good morning. We have our district attorney here.
Good morning, everyone. Cassandra Jenicky, Tuolumne County District Attorney. You won't be hearing from me a whole lot this morning. The original plan was for me to be in a jury trial today, but that didn't happen. And so I tapped on some incredible community members and members of my staff to come and discuss with you this incredibly important awareness month and the proclamation that we're requesting from you. So allow me to introduce Community Services Coordinator Pam Orbaugh from the Center for Nonviolent Community, and then Deputy District Attorney Stephanie Novelli, and Victim Advocate Christine Miller, and of course, Court Support Dog Ann.
Good morning.
Morning. There's a saying in Hollywood to never work with children and animals because you'll get upstaged. So I just am already going to cede to Ann. So my name's Pamela Orbaugh. I'm the Community Services Coordinator at Center for a Nonviolent Community, and I'd like to thank the board for hearing us today and considering this proclamation. I'd like to thank the District Attorney's Office, Victim Witness, law enforcement, and all of our community partners for working alongside us to help survivors find justice and healing. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but it happens every single day, all year long, across the globe, and right here in Tuolumne County. Domestic violence is not a women's issue. It is not a private family matter. It is a virus that infects our community at all levels. For decades, numerous studies have shown the link between domestic violence and homelessness, which is one of our county's greatest concerns. A study in San Diego showed that 50% of homelessness was related to domestic violence. Neither of these are issues that have simple or finite solutions, but rather are gardens that we will forever need to tend. We can plant seeds of violent prevention in the community through positive youth development programs, healthy relationship education, and working with whole families, including those who harm. But like a garden needs water and sunlight, solving these problems will always take resources and dedicated individuals, essentially vigilance and care. Because we all know weeds can overtake a garden at any time if it isn't tended. That's why I'm here before you today. As you make decisions to steward our community's resources and set the course for the future, choose to challenge norms and behaviors that foster domestic violence. help weed out domestic violence and its impact on our community. Center for a Nonviolent Community can be reached at our 24-hour crisis line, 209-533-3401, our website, www.nonviolentcommunity.org, and we have an active social media presence on Facebook and Instagram at CNVC Sonora, where you can stay apprised of things we have going on in the community. And I'm specifically going to appeal to men who may be listening that we are in desperate need for volunteers to do the Council, which is a support group for middle school boys. And if you are interested in that, please reach out to me. You can call me at the crisis line number or our regular number, 209-588. Oh my goodness. I'm so nervous, I forgot our own phone number. Pam at nonviolentcommunity.org. But I just want to say thank you so much for hearing me today, and I really am so grateful to the DA's office for supporting us and working with us every day all year. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like that number is 209-588-9305. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Novelli. I'm a Deputy District Attorney here in Tuolumne County. I have the privilege of coming before you today with Christine Miller, one of our office's victim advocates, as well as our court support dog, Anne, who's gotten lots of shout outs today. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I file all of our office's domestic violence cases, and I vertically prosecute all of the felony domestic violence. I wanted to share some statistics with you today that illustrate some concerning trends in our county and what can only be described as the domestic epidemic within the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2019, there were 357 referrals of domestic violence to our office. This accounted for 9.4% of the total referrals to our office that year. In 2020, we had 353 referrals for domestic violence, which accounted for 9.1% of the total referrals. So far, as of October 11th, 2021, yesterday, when I pulled the numbers, we've had 358 domestic violence referrals. That currently accounts for 12.9% of our total referrals for the year so far. 358. That's more than in 2019. That's more than in 2020. And we're only in the second week of October. Unfortunately, in my experience, the holidays bring an uptick for referrals in domestic violence cases. Currently, we are on trend to hit 460 domestic violence referrals by the end of the year. That's a 30% increase from 2020. Thankfully, we have a dedicated group of victim advocates, including Christine, who provide priceless services to those survivors who want them. In 2019, Victim Witness provided services to 111 survivors of domestic violence. In 2020, we provided 198 survivors of domestic violence services. So far, in 2021, as of yesterday, 122 survivors of domestic violence have been provided services. In 2016, when I handled juvenile delinquency cases, I cannot think of one case involving juveniles and domestic violence. So far this year, our office has provided services to 7 victims of teen dating victimization. So not only are we seeing an increase in domestic violence, we are seeing it in younger and younger couples. We at the District Attorney's Office are committed and dedicated to seeking justice for survivors and providing resources and services to help those survivors. We know that you and our community share that commitment with us. We respectfully request you proclaim October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and join us in our community efforts to raise awareness about domestic violence and the services for our survivors in Tuolumne County. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. Yeah. We kind of knew that with COVID there'd be an uptick in all sorts of social issue cases, whether it's children and child abuse or domestic violence, et cetera. Now, you had said that you're on the trajectory for a 30% increase in 2021, and you also said your numbers are already higher than 2019. So I guess my question is, and I don't know if this is even something you can answer. It's and let me make another comment before I ask the question. I have noticed and I have commented that people just in general seem to be more angry since the lockdown days of 2020. People have come out and just, been more pent up just in general. So what percentage would you ascribe this increase to? Would you say that COVID has had something to do with it? Our, not COVID necessarily, but our social situation with having to stay in our homes and that kind of thing? Or would you, how would you qualify that is what I'm asking, the increase? Or do you have an answer?
I think it would be, there's a lot of different factors that go into it. I think, obviously, the economy is a huge issue that ties in with COVID-19. I think one of the interesting things is that the 2020 numbers compared to the 2021 numbers, I think we're seeing the effects of the pandemic now rather than when we were in lockdowns. And so I think that there's a number of things that are contributing to the uptick in just violence in general that we're seeing across the board, and just violent crime in our county. But unfortunately, we're seeing it a lot in domestic situations. Right. So I don't think there's one thing that you can pinpoint.
Yeah, that's kind of my summation also, but I wanted to know from your perspective and your work environment what you have seen.
So we're experiencing collective trauma, effectively. The pandemic, between economic impact, schools being closed, stresses on families, people who are vulnerable to the virus being, fearful for their health in a way that they would not have been prior to this. So when we experience collective trauma, when we don't have coping skills, hurt people, confused people, hurt other people. So resorting to increased, Sheriff Pooley's in the room, so he probably knows stats better than I do. But violent crime, drug arrests, things like that, people turning to these unhealthy coping mechanisms during these times, that is absolutely, I would say, the expression of the collective trauma we've experienced as a community and, the world. So that would.
Yeah, thank you for speaking to that. That's what I was trying to elicit, that kind of, I sort of know that, but you guys are the specialists in the, in your areas, and I'm glad that that you have made the public aware of this, because I agree, and it needs to be dealt with in a way that we have some answers and some hope for these people that are experiencing all these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hello, I'm Christine. I am the victim witness advocate, mainly for domestic violence. So thank you, members, for allowing us to speak about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The key to ending any type of epidemic is to not ignore it. That is why it's important to recognize October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which was actually first declared in 1989. As a victim services advocate, my primary goal is to walk a victim of domestic violence through the criminal justice system without adding to their trauma. Victim services provides victims of domestic violence with crisis intervention, emotional support, resources and referrals, assistance with victims of crime compensation, information on legal rights and protection, and as well as assistance with many other types of intervention. It's often difficult to assist victims of domestic violence because they live in emotional poverty. And like most levels of poverty, it's hard to overcome. But by providing them with support and giving them reliable resources, as well as listening to their concerns and fears, we can and do help them live a more violence-free life. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. I'll open it up to the public and then bring it back to the board. Is there anyone from the community that would like to speak?
Hi, good morning, board. I'm actually here for a whole nother reason, but I'm very grateful for the ladies here. My name is Teddy Watkins, and I have been intimately involved with CNVC for 15 years and both sides of the spectrum, so thank you very much, ladies. October is very near and dear to my heart. And the only thing that comes to mind is our CPS and CWS child reunification system in our county is, for lack of better words, not helping families reunify. It is further decimating and destroying families coming back together as the core problem of what we want for families in our county. And I know that personally, and I've witnessed it. So if something needs to be addressed further on down the line, CPS, CWS, child reunification, top of the list. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hello, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Susan Lipscomb. In 1999, I was the first woman to take contempt of a restraining order all the way through the court system, and the man saw time. If it wasn't for this group, it would have never happened. I feared for my life. I felt that I was not getting any protection from law enforcement. I had an active restraining order, and sometimes it took 3 to 4 hours for the sheriff's department to respond to that back in 1999. And I have seen great improvement. And the biggest problem in our county, I believe, is the lack of information. And if these people can get this information out and give victims hope and an avenue to get down, we need to get it out in the streets. And we need to let people know that there is help for victims in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your story. Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Board. I just wanted to take a moment to tell these ladies thank you so much for bringing this forward. The DA's office, Center for Nonviolent Community and Victim Witness, part of solving a problem is admitting we have a problem. We do have a problem in this community with domestic violence, and these folks work with the victims every day, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the phones that would like to speak? Okay, bring it back to the board. Any questions or comments, or I'll look for a...
I had a comment on this.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you to the speakers because, you know, as we look over, I think the supervisor half mentioned elder abuse, child abuse. We have a lot of pretty high rates in this county of a lot of these issues. I think a lot of it's tied to the poverty and the stress that, you know, we end up facing, and those are issues we certainly grapple with. But in dealing with the after effects, the work you do is absolutely critical. And I think putting those that really need to be locked away for a while behind bars and working with the victims and supporting their rights. I also wanted to take just a quick moment to also recognize one of the, at the time, I believe it was Mudload Mountain Women's Resource Center founders, one of the founding mothers, Liz Sewell, who's no longer with us as well. Maybe a quick little moment of silence for her and all the work that's continuing to be done today. Thank you. And with that too, sometimes I get questions, what's the point of having these proclamations, these recommendations? It's a great opportunity to bring these issues to the board and to recognize the great people that are working on these issues, as well as to, on an annual basis, set up kind of the foundation to do public awareness campaigns, to be able to know what week we're going to be sending out materials and trying to impact this in the community. So I think it is very important. I appreciate you taking time to be here today.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I think Pamela said it best. Virus which affects community at all levels. Okay, and it's important that we recognize that, because this is not just one area of spousal abuse or any problems there. This is across the board. And, you know, the work that our DA's office does, that the Center for Nonviolent Community does, is critically important. The other thing that, you know, I heard was that when we look at the trend in 2021, you know, that it could approach potentially 460, I think was the number. But the term collective trauma, you know, that was another important thing in my mind that came out. Sure, we've had issues. I think everybody knows it, you know, during the lockdown periods, but we haven't had lockdowns in 2021, right? So we're dealing with a collective, you know, whole area, you know, that's been occurring. My wife and I have supported the center for, you know, many years. Really appreciate the work that they've done, and I'm doing so on an ongoing basis. And just thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Supervisor Kirk?
Yeah, just thank you guys. I work, you know where I work at my other job. And so I get to deal with those guys, but I also get to read all their files and all the mess that they leave behind. And I was a probation officer for a little bit, and it was very hard to work with victims. Very messy, especially those that you really want to go after and prosecute, but then they get scared and then they disappear and then you just get frustrated. So I kind of know a little bit about what you do, but I know enough to know I have just a lot of thanks for what you do. And those numbers, 30% increase is devastating. I'm not surprised though. I think I stood in front of this board in November last year and I said, this is the projections, this is where we're headed as a public health issue, you know, these other social issues that we're going to be dealing with. And now we're starting to see those numbers. So, yeah, I think that lady nailed it on the head. Getting, I don't know how, but getting the information to women in this community who know that they don't need to be pushed around or verbally abused, that there are resources and anything we can do to support that. But, yeah, I know a lot of those women are in tough situations, and usually you don't hear about them until after the fact. So, anyways, thank you guys. That's the point of what I'm saying is thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And yeah, one of the benefits of going last is everything good that can be said has been said and more eloquently than I could say. So thank you very much for being here and sharing about the important work that you do in the community. And obviously anything you need, please ask this board. And Pam, call me about the council thing. I know we tried to get together on that in the past, so give me a call. Okay, so we have a proclamation before us. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 99-21 proclaiming October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Tuolumne County.
I'll second that.
Oh, I think
We got lots of yeses here.
I think Supervisor Happ was a little bit ahead of you this time, but you'll get the next one. Okay, so I have a motion by Supervisor Goldenberg, a second by Supervisor Haff. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, your motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, so shall we move on to our next item, item 7?
Item number 7, consideration of adopting Resolution 100-21, proclaiming the month of October 2021 as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Roger Root, your IT Director. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come before you today, and I'd like to also thank Supervisor Brandon for encouraging me to bring this item forward. This is the first time in the 18 years that this has been this month has been nationally recognized as Cybersecurity Month, that it has been brought to the board. So I think it's a milestone that kind of shows where our emphasis has been since I came on board. And so really with that, I want to, kind of talk about my position and what my goals were. And during my very first presentation to the board, I emphasized cybersecurity, information technology, and the risk involved in those two. And at that time, I highlighted a few states and a few local government agencies that were dealing with cybersecurity attacks. And you may remember that, some of you may remember that presentation, but in that presentation at the time, Atlanta was dealing with a ransomware attack, and they were, the cost of that attack for their agency at that time was over $17 million. Since that time, their recovery has exceeded over $35 million. So, because they obviously didn't pay the ransomware. And on that presentation, I think I identified about 6 or 7 other agencies, local and state agencies, that were dealing with ransomware attacks. Since that time, we've only seen an increase. Last year, there were over 1,000 public agencies throughout the United States that had to deal with ransomware attacks. And it's just continuing to increase. And so I have been in front of this board several times talking about cybersecurity and how important it is. And in the last 2.5 years, we as a county have made significant investments in our cybersecurity posture. CEO Riggs has been very supportive, and the board has been very supportive and approved many really big investments in cybersecurity. So I would like to talk about a few of those investments that we made. Over 2.5 years ago, we invested in security training and a phishing simulation solution that allows us to do phishing exercises with our staff here and help train them so they're aware when they're getting email that's malicious. And we just kicked off a phishing exercise at the end of September that was leading into October, and our goal was to have some stats to kind of kick off our cybersecurity efforts for the month of October. And as an organization, our success rate on the phishing exercise, which means people that did not fall for the phishing exercise, was 92%. That's 5 to 11% higher than the national average. And so it's phenomenal. I think our staff is pretty diligent about checking their email. I know that on a weekly basis, I receive email from staff all over the county asking if it's legitimate. And most of the time when it's forwarded to me, actually probably all the time it's forwarded to me, it's not. I can't even think of a case when it was legitimate email. So we invested heavily in that training solution, and we're continuing to push that forward. It'll be part of our efforts in the next couple weeks of the month of October. We also implemented an artificial intelligence. It's an autonomous cybersecurity AI solution that what it does is it has appliances that live in our environment and learns how our environment operates. And when it sees anomalies in the environment, it shuts down that anomaly without having me come into the office and do it. And then we can respond to it later. Now, sometimes it shuts down legitimate work, mostly for my staff. But it has been crucial in our cybersecurity efforts. It has stopped certain actions from happening. It has raised our awareness on a lot of things that are going on in the technology environment in Tuolumne County. And it has highlighted some of the technologies that are so old that they're using processes that are now considered malicious. So it's just been one of the most crucial tools that we've implemented in the last 2 years that has really helped my staff in monitoring and addressing cybersecurity. We also, in the last 1.5 years, have spent a lot of money upgrading our firewalls throughout the county, adding redundancy and capacity, but we also upgraded a lot of the security features on those firewalls. Most of the firewalls have features that a lot of organizations don't take advantage of, and we've taken this last 1.5 years and really focused on implementing those features. We've upgraded the endpoint protection on almost 2,000 devices in the county. Previously, we were using a free version of endpoint protection, so your virus protection and malicious software protection. We've upgraded that to, we are using a paid version now, one of the leaders in the industry. We've upgraded our DNS security. Doesn't really mean a lot to everybody, but basically it adds a layer of protection to where if we get attacked from outside. We have a third-party company now that's protecting us from those kind of attacks. And that would be attacks on our website, attacks on any of our public-facing computers and servers and services. You just recently approved our virtual desktop environment. We're hit the ground running on that. We're making great strides. We also recently approved the disaster recovery backup solution that we're really excited about. And I plan on being back to the board probably in the next few weeks with a recommendation on that solution. And then you also approved the security administrator position, which we will begin recruitment on that fairly soon. And, you know, I don't usually bring up how much money we've invested in this area as a whole, but since I've come on board, I've been tracking how much we spent on security versus how much was spent previously. And in the last 2 years, we've invested over $1.2 million in security. And it's a huge number, and you know, some people are like, well, maybe you shouldn't tell them how much you actually invested over the time, but I think it's important for the organization to know how important cybersecurity is to the board and to the CIO's office, and how much of an effort we put in IT trying to find solutions to help protect the county. Obviously, we can't guarantee protection, but we do what we can to make sure that that we are doing our due diligence to protect the county. So I mentioned this is first year since the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month has been nationally recognized. That Tuolumne County has recognized it. The theme for this year is do your part and hashtag be smart, cyber smart. Now I'm old enough to say pound cyber smart, and my kids were correcting me last night. It's a hashtag. So hashtag be cyber smart. I mentioned we also kicked off the phishing exercise. We're going to have training videos that will be shared with staff. We're going to continue to have an email campaign going out. The staff that were not successful in the phishing campaign will have additional training. They also are going to have reoccurring phishing exercises. We'll have one quarterly for everybody, but the staff that don't quite identify the phishing email will have some additional opportunities to try to be successful. As I mentioned, we're going to continue on focusing on education and outreach. Cybersecurity is near and dear to my heart, and my team takes it very serious. And I know that I've seen from the actions that have been taken over the last couple of years that the county takes it very serious too. And with that, you know, I'd like to thank you again for this opportunity, and I'm available if you have any questions or any comments.
Thank you very much. Any questions for our IT director? Otherwise, we'll go to public comment first.
I just had a comment.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say, Roger, thank you so much for what you do. I'm happy you brought up the number because I'm actually really proud of that. It's one of those kind of complicated things that aren't always the biggest showy stuff. It's all the behind the scenes things that makes everything function. But it's one of the aspects that I'm really proud of because, as you mentioned, we see over and over and over in other counties and cities, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in ransom, not to mention losing data. You know, imagine if you were a member of the public, you asked us to have something prepared and we said it was all destroyed. You know, bricking up computer systems that can be used by public safety. If we had an emergency, what would we do during that? So what you do and what your team does is so important, and I think these investments reflect the modern world that we live in, and for continuity of government and being, I think, more resilient, more capable of recovery, and more, you know, resistant to any of these types of threats coming in. So I really greatly appreciate that. And just to clarify for the public too, this phishing with a PH. It's not that the IT department likes to go up to Pinecrest a lot for all the phishing exercises. I know I've sent you probably at least 5 or 6 different emails of folks trying to do that. So I always appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in, Roger, too. Yeah, the phishing exercises, I think that was a positive thing to do. 92%, I think you said, you know, that's a good number, very good number. You know, unfortunately, human nature is we want to trust people. And so we see these things come in and they look very innocent and we want to believe in that. And, you know, so I appreciate your efforts in teaching us when might it, you know, not be a good time to respond to those and to understand, why not. And the damage that can be done is obviously, it can destroy entire systems. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just say, I love working with you. I like how forward-thinking you are. And yes, IT is definitely supports the entire organization, so we got to do that right if we're going to do government right. So thank you for all you do, Roger.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. I'll just say thank you for your professionalism and for bringing to light to the board what we need to know in order to keep our county safe. Thank you.
And I'd just like to say thank you to Supervisor Brandon, because I do think moving into the future, this is something that will be, if we renew every year, it'll keep fresh in our mind how important this is, because I know as board members come and go, don't take this wrong, if you're a little bit older, it doesn't seem as important, but for some of us young guns, we understand it, even though we don't, we understand how important it is for the future of this organization. So thank you. I know, because you know more about it than I do. I'm just.
He thought it was a pound sign, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say that, I've been using, email, and I feel fairly competent as somebody that's a professional with email and with understanding what are the risks and what doesn't seem right and what's going to be spam. And I'll tell you, last year I got an email from another elected official saying, "Hey, Ryan, I need you to follow up." And I just said, "I'm in a meeting. What do you need?" And they said, "I need you to buy me some gift cards." And I thought, that's kind of odd. And I look at the email address, which, it didn't show up immediately. It just had the name of the elected person. And I thought, oh, that is not a real email address. But anyway, it just shows that anybody can be tricked. Of course, I didn't buy them any gift cards or anything. As soon as the money got brought into it, I figured something was wrong. But I did respond to that initial email, which was the point. They wanted to see that there actually was a live body behind my email address, so that's a potential victim there. Yep. And so they did get through my first barrier of security. And so anybody, anybody could potentially become victim to this kind of thing, because they get more and more cunning and they try different things. And every year there's some other different technique. And so we have to be flexible and have to stay on top of it. And it takes investment. So I appreciate you putting that at the forefront. And you're one of our really great department heads. So really appreciate what you've done with that department over the past couple of years. Do we have any public comment on this? Anyone on the phones? Okay, we do have someone that's called in. Good morning, welcome.
Thank you. I would like to ask you, if your phishing hotline, first of all, I understand that it's only for county employees, but could it, or is there a plan in place to expand that to public for help? And by the way, it is a pound sign.
So the question was, do we plan? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have more comments or questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. So the question was, do we have any public-facing help for this? I would think it would probably be like a law enforcement issue, right?
Yeah, well, realistically, it would be, we are planning on our website redesign to have more of a cybersecurity page that's dedicated to that from the IT department. But this phishing exercise is internal to county staff. And we pay based on the number of emails that go out. So it would be pretty significant to try to do a campaign for the entire county.
Yeah, and I know, and our IT department is pretty internally focused. It's for county departments because we are a fairly large organization. But I do know that law enforcement, the sheriff, and the district attorney do have resources where they do investigate cybercrime, and they're trying to expand that. So if you're a victim of cybercrime, definitely reach out to our sheriff.
To the
No,
caller
I just
to
think
in
that
the, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I just, the Board of Supervisors and the county government is there for the people in the county, and so I was wondering if, since you're looking for a cyber security month, part of that program could be helping the people in the county.
I just wanted to include one thing on that point too. As part of our memo here, I believe we have 4 different weeks that are going to have different promotional and outreach campaigns. I think that includes the public, of course, right? And on our social media channels, it's going to be Cyber Smart, October 4th, Fight the Fish, October 11th, Explore, Experience, Share Cybersecurity Career Awareness, October 18th, and October 25th, Cybersecurity First. So there will be some outreach and informational resources going out as a part of this, thanks to Roger and his department.
Okay, thanks.
All right, is there anyone else on the phones? Mm-hmm. So if there's no other public comment, we'll bring it back to the board. There is a resolution. It's very short, so I'll go ahead and read it. Whereas the County of Tuolumne is committed to ensuring cybersecurity as a priority in Tuolumne County, and cybersecurity is a serious concern both locally and nationally, and cybersecurity is a realistic threat to the data technology infrastructure of Tuolumne County. And whereas Cybersecurity Month has been recognized nationally since 2003, whereas in 2020, over 1,000 public agencies in the United States were attacked or impacted by cyber attacks. Cyber threats are real and need to be a high priority for all organizations. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim that the month of October 2021 is recognized as Cybersecurity Month. So that's our resolution. Do I have any further comment or a motion in support of that?
I'd like the motion to approve of item 7.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Brandon, second by Supervisor Goldenberg. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, your motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to say, is everyone okay if we power through, or do we need to take a break? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a break. We'll come back at 10:22. Okay, welcome back to this meeting of the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors for October 12th. Okay, so where we were left off, we were on item number 8, which is under Public Works. So I'll look to our board clerk to read that for us, and then take it away, Kim and Blossom.
Item number 8, consideration of 1, finding that the deviations related to the United Pavement Maintenance, Inc. bid are immaterial and waiving the deviations. And 2, awarding a contract in the amount of $1,810,839.87 to United Pavement Maintenance, Inc. to perform the work as shown in the plans and bid book for contract number 1679, intersection improvements to Parrots Ferry Road and SR 49, and authorizing the chair to sign.
Good morning, Board. Blossom Scott Heim and Kim McFarland from your Public Works Department. In 2013, your board authorized the Engineering Division to prepare and administer a federal funding application for improvements to the intersection of Parrots Ferry Road and State Route 49 under the Highway Safety Improvement Program. In the 10 years preceding the application, there were 72 accidents, including 1 fatality at the intersection. The safety issue that the project addresses is a right-of-way violation, specifically failure to yield where the swing lane and northbound Parrots Ferry meet. On July 29th at 2 p.m., the project bids were opened and we received 6 bids. The revised engineer's estimate for the project was $1.77 million. Federal Highways Administration states that competition should be considered adequate when the low bid does not exceed 120% of the engineer's estimate when 5 or more bids are received. The received bids range from 101.9% to 134.7% of the engineer's estimate. Therefore, no bid analysis was performed. County Council has reviewed the bids submitted by United Pavement Maintenance, Inc. and found that the bid contained deviations from the county's call for bids, namely a discrepancy between the unit price and item total, omission of the bid opening date on the bidder's bond, and concerns raised by other bidders on the listing of subcontractors. County Council found that the second bidder's bid documents are in substantial compliance with our call for bids. Please refer to the attached memorandum from County Council. Your board, must make a determination on these issues prior to awarding the contract. The conclusion in County Council's memo states, if your board desires to award the contract for this project to United Pavement Maintenance, your board must find that the deviations described related to the bid are immaterial and waive the deviations listed above. If your board desires to award this contract but declines to waive the deviations, your board must find the United Pavement Maintenance bid to be non-responsive and award the contract to the apparent second low bidder. Construction is expected to begin in October of 2021, weather permitting, and take 1 season to complete. The engineering division will utilize a construction engineering consultant to provide daily inspection and oversight of the project. It is recommended that your board, 1, find the deviations related to the United Pavement Maintenance bid are immaterial and waive the deviations, and 2, award a contract in the amount of $1,810,839.87 to United Pavement Maintenance, Inc. to perform the work as shown in the plans and bid book for contract number 1679, and authorize the chair to sign. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. One, thank you for working this. I know this has come up a couple of times before, and one thing that was persuasive to me on this, I know we received the highway safety grant for the intersection improvement, and being this far into it, to go back on that, to my understanding, requires paying that back. And so it would be more expensive to not proceed. Plus the number of accidents that have happened in that, it is a dangerous merge lane. I take it every day. And you just hope that, people are local and they know what they're doing and they're not somebody who's not paying attention. My main concern with it relates to a new commercial center on the corner there, and the left turn into that. And I know that those are 2 separate projects, but obviously they have overlap. And that the way that those were, that this would be done before the commercial development ended up being completed for that. I'm concerned that we have an intersection that is being redone because of safety requirements, but there's an added amount of traffic that will be going in very near where that merge lane and where that was, the accident point is. What if we approve this will be done prior to, I think, the entire intersection being redone to be able to protect public safety in that area? One thought is potentially having it to where there can't be a left turn until that project is finished.
Supervisor Brandon, I'm sorry, I keep getting staff looking over here. The item before your board is really focused on whether or not to approve the contract. So I think that we might be getting a bit off agenda topic, which is obviously not something that we can do per the Brown Act.
Okay, can I ask then and reframe it, if in that contract there is anything to mitigate some of the safety issues that would be done before construction starts?
So the contract will be built in phases, starting with phase 1. All access to Union Hill from Parrots Ferry will be restricted.
Which Union Hill? The Union Hill, the
intersection, cars will not be able to access Union Hill Road from Parrots
Union
Ferry
Hill.
Road during the first phase of the project by virtue of how the project is being built, west to east essentially. During the second phase, only southbound traffic coming from Columbia will be able to access Union Hill Road. In the third phase, both northbound and southbound traffic will be able to access. There still won't be a turn lane. And again, during the fourth phase. So the turn lane will be operational at the end of the project, which we anticipate to take 80 working days, so roughly 4 months, weather permitting.
Okay, and which phase closes down the swing lane?
The final phase.
The final phase. It'll be open until that entire time, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, great. And so what I'm understanding is in the first phase, and I'd like to know when you would expect that to start if we approve that today, that would close down traffic that would be going into that area. The second one would make it no left turn. And then the third phase would open that back up. But we'd already be underway in the construction, correct?
Correct.
And when would it start?
We're hoping to start within about a month of award. There's some pre-work that we have to do, stormwater pollution prevention plans, working on getting a rider on our Caltrans encroachment permit, having the pre-construction meeting, some pre-ordering of materials. So weather permitting, we're hoping to start within about a month and then keep going unless we get some significant rain events.
Great, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other questions?
Just a quick question regarding kind of like business practices, and I don't want to compare apples to oranges, but if I remember right, in past projects, if somebody didn't submit something correctly, we would throw that bid out and go to next bidder. So with this one, when we're looking at as a board deciding, you know, if we're gonna let the deviations go through and go on with the bid, where is that threshold as far as when we decide if a project, if we throw a project out because they were insufficient with the information at the bidding time? Am I making sense?
I think I might be
I'm
able
just
to
trying
weigh
to make sure that we're being fair and firm and consistent.
Yeah, I think I can weigh in on this. So if deviations in the bid, they can be material or immaterial. If the deviation is such that it would put the bidder at an unfair advantage, then that would be a material deviation that the board could not waive.
Okay.
If it's an immaterial deviation, which I've determined that these deviations are immaterial, the board has the discretion to waive those. The board is not required to waive those, but routinely, the board has waived immaterial deviations in bids.
Okay, so those past ones that we threw out were because they were material?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and I think in this case, the deviation we're talking about here is that the lowest bid that came in is $80,000 above the engineer's estimate. And so what you're asking us is to, even though it's above the engineer's estimate, accept the low bid anyway. That's kind of the main.
No, really, the deviation in the bid is the lack of the date for bid opening on the bidder's bond. And we've confirmed that that doesn't have any effect on the enforceability of that bond, so it's an immaterial deviation. There were some other concerns raised, but the first deviation is resolved by the terms of our bidding documents, and then the other concerns really aren't a deviation with the bid. So it's really just the date on the bidder's bond.
Okay, so you're asking us to not hold up a $1.8 million contract because somebody forgot to fill in a box with the date? Okay. And Supervisor Half?
Yeah. I have several questions, and I may be wanting county council to weigh in, but starting off, I have a question. What type of track record do we have, if any, with United Pavement Maintenance?
I've talked to some other contractors and other agencies. TUD has used them for patch paving contracts. They seem to be primarily a paving contractor. I haven't talked to any agencies that had as complex a project as this with them. So when I spoke to the contractor, they assured me that they did have the appropriate crews to perform the concrete work, that their surveying and material testing would be under that listing threshold. I think my main concern was that they said they were going to self-perform the rebar work, which is not very common in the industry. So everything I've heard from them has been positive, but it's been in the context of paving-only projects.
And it's from others. We have not used them in the past. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay. So I hear, County Council, I hear, Mr. Nesper, what you're saying about the discrepancies being immaterial, but I need to understand the discrepancy between the unit price and the item total. That doesn't sound immaterial to me just on the face of it. So can you explain that?
Sure. Our bidding documents specifically explain how that sort of a deviation will be resolved. And applying that, it makes sense that it resolves. It's, if I can just reference my memo here.
Okay, when I read that and I see that they're the lowest bidder, I'm wondering, just so you know where my thinking process is, I'm wondering if they priced it wrong, the unit price, and then they come up with a total that is incorrect.
No, it's clear, it was clear to me in my review that discrepancy was just an error in filling in the document. It didn't give them any sort of advantage or affect the total bid price.
Okay. And the concerns with listing of the subcontractors, what kind of concerns were those?
As Blossom mentioned, it's kind of, they are representing that they're going to self-perform a lot of tasks that typically aren't self-performed. And then there are certain thresholds that require subcontractors to be listed based on the percentage of the total work. And for those areas, they're representing that they're not anticipating that to meet those thresholds. So some of the concerns were raised by other bidders. We looked into those concerns, but it's really not a deviation. As long as they can perform as they've represented, it's a non-issue.
So this is a question I have just regarding these things in general. Sometimes contractors come back and say, oops, we made a mistake. Here's a change order because this is incurred and wasn't known. Would any of these deviations possibly, help that to happen?
They would not be permitted to do a subcontractor substitution. So worst case scenario, we could run into a situation where they can't self-perform the work that they state they will. I haven't dug into the Caltrans specs at that point. I think we can do some payment deductions, but I'd have to look into that further. But worst case scenario, that's the situation we could get into.
Okay.
During construction.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm just trying to educate myself on this and understand it better. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so I'll look and see, is there any public comment on this? Okay, anyone from the room? Anyone on the phones? Okay, bring it back to the board. If there's any more discussion, otherwise I'll look. Actually, I'll kind of weigh in on this. So you said 72 accidents. What was the time frame of that?
And that was the 10 years preceding, I want to say 2001 through 2012.
Yeah, and you mentioned the one fatality. Was that the bicycle, the person that was struck on a bicycle out there?
I'm not sure if it was that or if it was a vehicle accident. I'd have to look back at the data.
Because when you said one, I kind of think there were at least two, and then there were some high-profile fatal accidents out there in the distant past.
Yes, and we have to look in a very specific sphere of influence from, for the project. So there could have been some immediately outside that sphere.
Yeah, and anyway, all this is just kind of to get to that, we've been, it's been a problem for a long time, many decades, that intersection, and we've known about it for a long time, and we've actually been working diligently to try and do something about it for going on 9 years now. So I'm kind of ready to pull the trigger and actually get the work done. So I think the bid, we went back out to bid and came back with a much more reasonable price for taxpayers to get the work done, and so I really applaud you for doing that. I had sticker shock the first time, and this is much more in the cost that we can afford under the grant. And so I think this, and from everything I've heard about the contractor, they seem like they're capable of doing this work, and that I'm sure you'll keep your thumb on them pretty tightly as you do. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this contract. So is there any other?
Well, I'd like to make the motion to approve of item 8, items 1 and 2 related to improvements at the intersection of Pedro Y.
Okay, a motion. I'll go ahead and.
I'll second.
Okay. Yeah, I was almost going to do it. Because I'm happy about this. So this is, I think, going to be a really good thing for the folks that live down there. So we have a motion by Supervisor Brandon, a second by Supervisor Goldenberg. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Go get it done. Okay, so the CAO has asked if we can move item 11 up. Is that okay with everybody? I think we had some folks here that have been waiting to speak on that. So we'll go ahead and jump to item 11. I'll look for our board clerk to read that for us.
Item number 11, consideration of approving a dump cam pilot program and approving necessary budget adjustments to the fiscal year 2021-2022 adopted budget, 4/5 vote required. Supervisor Brandon.
So is there any staff report on this, or we just go to Supervisor Brandon? Okay, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Heather. So this is coming up, as we all know, we've made compliance, I think dumping and the garbage we're seeing accumulating around the county a priority for this board this year to fix up. I want to say I think it's gotten worse than it even has been in the past recently, and we're doing everything we can to try and clean up Tuolumne County. We have taken a lot of action in directing stronger codes, in hiring more enforcement officers, in putting abatement funds to be able to clean up very severe sites. But there's one very missing and very critical element to that, and it's the element of risk. It is, unfortunately, very low risk right now to dump in Tuolumne County somewhere. The incentives don't line up. People feel comfortable and safe taking a load of stuff from a build site or from a residential area or even a hauling company making profit off of it and dumping it on some side road, a lot of which we've seen at a number of these cleanups that I have mentioned, done around Mount Provo, Tuolumne Road, Big Hill, the Junction Shopping Center, Buchanan Mine Road, the 108 Stockton Road Underpass, East Sonora Burger King, Lime Kiln Road, Yankee Hill Road, and even more. We were just out at the Law and Justice Center as well. And one was actually dumped right in front of Resiliency Village, I believe just 2 weeks ago. It's unfortunately bold, and I think it's because it's an environment without accountability, and we need to change that. The cost to clean up these sites is very high, and to not clean them up is even higher. It's toxic to our water, it's toxic to our community. And what this proposal seeks to do is to enact a pilot program as presented at public forum by founder Jason Revord of One Pile at a Time, and I think discussed at this board before, to be able to have remote operated, night vision, solar powered cameras that are self-contained and in resilient steel boxes out there to be placed at random, and not complete random, but in unknown locations that are frequently, even after being cleaned up within months, being filled with more dump materials. One, we want to know that when somebody is out there dumping, they're looking over their shoulder, they don't feel comfortable doing it. They know that there's a risk of getting caught. And to be able to hopefully find one of these people doing this and throw the book at them and give these new codes that I hope we will see drafted and adopted in the future, give them a whirl and let people know that we're not going to tolerate that anymore. So with that, I present for you a budget for the dump cam pilot program, which we've seen similar things in other areas. These totals were a little bit larger than they were before. I think this is partly because of supply chain shortages. It also doesn't include any sales, which are kind of ongoing and hard to predict. So these are just the basic value of these from Lowe's as well. I tried to get them as local as I could. It calculates out 12 V150s, 2 V200s. Both of those are remote operated cameras that were identified by One Pile as what they would need, as well as mounted steel locking boxes that make them a lot more resistant. It has 2 antenna range extenders. Some areas, for example, Mount Provo, a lot of recurring dumping happens there. That is outside of cell service, and one advantage of these cameras is they upload any video and photos taken directly using cell service networks to a remote drive. So even if the camera is damaged, we're still able to get that and have accountability with it. It has 64 gigabyte SD cards for each of the cameras. It has extra batteries to make swapping them out easy. They do work on solar, but depending on weather and other changes, as well as service for each camera through the cellular network. I have as an optional item at the bottom 2-year protection plans that are available from Lowe's. That's something that we could explore with this. And I presented on this 4 options. One, require a 4/5 vote by this board to authorize and increasing the appropriations from the line items that are listed. Option 2 is we could amend this to be able to pass that. I would say, and then option 3 we would direct staff to put together a different proposal. I would include in that too, we could send this, for example, to the Solid Waste Committee to be able to work on further if that's with the interest of the board, or option 4 to take no action. But I would not recommend option 4 because I think we really do need to be trying things, and this is trying something. With that, I'll go back to you.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you Supervisor Brandon for the work you put into this. I'm going to suggest another option and see if that's okay. I really appreciate where you've, the depth and the research that you've done in doing this. I know there are several other groups that want to weigh in on this kind of issue, including the sheriff, the district attorney, and then we're actually having our solid waste committee meeting tomorrow, where we can talk kind of more in depth about this with our solid waste commissioner. So what I would suggest is, if it's possible, where we could table this, get some of those other parties in a room, discuss kind of how to do this from a staff level. And then after that time, kind of come up with a plan and maybe bring that back to the board. So that would be my request, and see if there's any other support for that, or if you're open to that.
I have a comment that's tangential to that.
Yeah.
And thank you, Supervisor Brandon, for doing all this work. I imagine all of us have gotten lots of emails from the group, one pile at a time, from its members. And I really appreciate the work that they do, and can only imagine what kind of frustration they go through when they see that they just cleaned up an area and there it is again. But I think we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit. Supervisor Brandon, you mentioned you want to throw the book at them. Well, we've got to get the book rewritten, and we haven't done that yet. I'm just kind of curious how close we are to bringing that back to the board. I don't know if it's with county council or what group is, but I know we're working on an ordinance code to stiffen up the penalties once people are caught, and I don't know where we're at.
We're all looking blank because we are not working on a specific
You're not
ordinance right
actively
now.
working on it,
I mean, they're
okay.
doing the rewrite and working on Title 17, but Quincy is here and can give us some more specific information.
Okay, I think Ms. Yaley may have something to say to weigh in on this. This is important because we want to have the book. We really do, so that when we catch people, we can do something about it. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Director. Right now, Brian Bell, our Chief Building Official, is leading the effort on our code compliance ordinance update. Several weeks ago, he sent an email out to all of the staff that are involved in that process, asking them to start working on the changes that they would like to make. And I believe we have a meeting scheduled for next week or the following week to receive those changes from the various entities that we're seeking input from. At that time, we would internally draft an ordinance, but it would need to be vetted and worked through with county council. So it's just a matter of balancing priorities and emergencies and other requests that we get. But we do know you are anxious for that to come back before your board, so we're actively working on it.
Thank you. Yeah. And Sheriff, did you have some comments on that too? So I have some other things I want to say, but I want to make sure people. Okay. And so Supervisor Brandon, I also have option number 5 that I don't think you mentioned. If the group wants to do something right away, regardless of whether we have the book to throw at people or not, they can go to our community grants program and apply for a grant right now for some of these cameras. And I understand. I had some questions about, how are they going to make sure that these cameras are not going to get shot at, dismembered, or stolen? And so that's still a concern. And anyway, so that's been addressed by Jason himself, saying that they would put a metal box around the equipment, and that might help a little bit, but I don't know that it's going to prevent somebody in the public stealing this equipment, and then I think that's happened in the past. So that's still a concern, and so I wanted that to be addressed as well.
Yeah, I can speak to a couple of those points. I think one, if it was only specific to one group, obviously this was asked for by one pile at a time. There are actually other, as we've been finding out, trash cleanup nonprofits locally. I think as a pilot program, this is something that could expand. We would potentially have these be investments that the county would keep, loan out on a basis. So it would be our equipment that we could use as we see fit with it, but loaning it to them for convenience because that reduces the burden on staff time to have to check them, move them, which really assists us. I think they could apply for it. Except then those would be their cameras. I'd rather it be ours that would be available to any group kind of working on the public interest for that. On the security, that's definitely been a concern. I think the LTE network connectivity, it means that if somebody's trying to take this bolted from a tree down, it's very likely we're going to get a photo of that person that's motion activated, that they would be placed in only ladder distance, so you would have to bring equipment to actually go access them and then uninstall them. And they come in what's attached in the memo, a hardened steel security box that's meant to be very difficult to damage all weather and not interfere with the solar panel. It's not to say that they can't be damaged or stolen, but that there would be accountability. And the replacement cost for them is around $400 per camera, which, while not a minor amount of money, the goal isn't to necessarily be in every area that has recurring dumping, because that'd take thousands of cameras. It's really to present an element of risk that deters behavior before it even starts, not so much as just an enforcement action. You mentioned throwing the book at them. I agree. To play with the metaphor a little bit, I think we're working on a bigger book. You know, that's what we're trying to throw at them. We do have our current one. We do have fines in place. We do have these things identified. As mentioned in my memo here, I was looking under the budget line item for some of the funds we were getting in solid waste. Please correct me if I read it wrong, but it looked that for illegal disposals and dumping, we had $0 in revenue for the last 3 years. And for fines for littering, $287, $269, and $41. We really haven't had much of a financial incentive. It's not that the fines are just low, it's that we don't have any enforcement. If we were to implement something like this now, and it ends up working, and then we increase the codes, it's still effective, and we can potentially expand it. And to Chairman Campbell's point about having more time to be able to discuss this, I don't think it's on the Solid Waste Committee agenda, is it?
So we talk about it pretty regularly under the staff reports that are given by the solid waste director. So it's one of the topics that he's working on. And so, yeah, we do routinely bring it up. But what I'm going to suggest is that we take this work that you've done. I'll tell you, one of the things that we haven't done is the Solid Waste Committee hasn't reached out to the sheriff or to the district attorney to allow them a chance to weigh in and see if there are other options. So that's kind of one of the things that I would like to do through the committee before we proceed. But taking this into account and then potentially getting those other pieces of the puzzle together, and so we can definitely agendize it and make it an issue on the agenda for the Solid Waste Committee. Hopefully come back with a recommendation. It may either come to the board or may not. We may be able to just implement it right away.
So, yeah, I wanted to weigh in as well. I do appreciate all the effort that went into this. It's well thought out, well researched. I think the cost overall is pretty reasonable. I would also like to hear from, the sheriff and DA as far as the viability of, what can we actually, with this type of equipment, is it something that we can actually prosecute somebody for or, get them on a fine? But I agree with you, Supervisor Brandon. We do have penalties and fines in place now. So even though we might strengthen them, which I would like to see, we do have things, in place now that could be used. Just, as far as the community grant program, it's not up and running yet. So even though that could be a viable way to pay for something like this, we don't have it established yet, as far as I know. I mean, we're in discussions now, aren't we? Is that?
It's not up and running yet, yeah.
So, sorry, when Supervisor Half spoke to this, I started to pull the microphone over, but I didn't want to interrupt. So it is not up and running. We're actually, Jason, Terry, and I think Liz are working on bringing that to your board. So you will approve all of the parameters of how you want that program to run, who it will go to, the amounts that you want, are they all the same? So he's planning to bring that to you soon. So right now there isn't an ability to apply. However, and I haven't talked with Jason today to find out what their timing, but I know they've been working on that and plan to get it to you as quickly as possible.
I'm meeting with them tomorrow morning over
great.
this, so, yeah. In any case, I'm supportive of bringing it back to the solid waste committee and do the investigation. I'm supportive of the cameras.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's kind of the point that we're all trying to say is we're all supportive of the concept of this, but the actual purchasing of the equipment is not the main issue. It's the getting all of the parties that are going to need to maintain them, prosecute the crimes, arrest individuals, getting them on board. And that's what I'm kind of asking the board to give us more time to put that together.
So I have a recommendation for the item that I think would accommodate that. One thing that would be important to me is just to see that come back to the board here to where we're able to take action on it, answer some of these questions. I would be willing to table it for 1 month, which should accommodate solid waste being able to agendize and discuss it. Staff, do we have a date of what meeting that would be for the Board of Supervisors? I guess that would be the second meeting of November.
The second meeting of November is the 9th. And I just wanted to also bring to your attention, and I did send you guys some information, there are parts of the program, legal documents that we will need in order to proceed with this program that could take a little bit of time. And I only sent that to you so that you're aware that if your board were to approve it, whether it goes through solid waste or today, we will need to work with county council, something similar that we did with both drought and tree mortality. We will need a legal right of entry to be able to put our equipment on someone's property and then have the right to access that property on an as-needed basis in the event we need to move it or adjust it or anything like that. We'll do our best with that, but I want to make sure everyone is aware that that is work we will need to do before we could place any cameras. But the next one would be November 9th, is a month from today.
So I'd be willing to make the motion to table this item until the meeting of November 9th to have it brought back.
I don't want to put a time limit on it because I don't know how long it's going to take, and we need staff to work through it.
If it comes back and we need more time, again, we can continue to do the same and then have it tabled for another time. It's only saying we would revisit it, so.
Yeah, well, I hope that you'll trust that we will work on this and that we'll come back to the board at a later time. But I'm going to look to see if there's consensus to table this item for a future time.
I have a motion on the table, and I believe we also have to do public comment.
Let's let everybody else be heard.
I haven't weighed in yet, but I do want to hear, I mean, I know there's chain of evidence issues that we're going to be dealing with. I know there's going to be property rights issues that we're dealing with. This is near and dear to me, especially in my district. I want to get this, but I want to get it done right. And I don't necessarily want to say November 9th, but I trust the solid waste committee that we're all having this conversation. We want to see this move forward. So we just got to go through the process. But I do want to hear from the sheriff, Cassandra from the DA, and Quincy. I know we hired code compliance, but we got to have all that up and running. So anyways, we can have this conversation publicly, and I'd like to hear from you real quick, but I think this needs to be hammered out.
And I'll just kind of, the purpose of tabling it is to put this discussion off until a later point. So we wouldn't need to do public comments and wouldn't need to do all these things now and then, and then over again.
I would like to hear.
But I understand that there is a consensus that we would like to hear public comment. So we can go through all that, but I'm just pointing out the fact that we will have to do all this again if we're eventually planning on tabling this. Just putting that out there. So, Sheriff, you have been patiently waiting to speak, so would you care to take the floor?
Okay to speak. I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
So just wanted to go back about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. Unfortunately, due to staffing, we had to remove the ag crime deputy from that position, roll him back into patrol to handle staffing. At that time, that would be the individual in our office that would be responsible for investigating dumps and things like that. There are a number of investigative techniques that we can use, cameras and other things. on occasion can be, actually, you think a trash dump should be a very easy thing, but sometimes it can be a bit convoluted. I would just ask that before you purchase any equipment, please get with us, let us help you. And Supervisor Brandon, thank you for bringing this up. This is near and dear to my heart. A couple months ago, I had my staff reach out to Caltrans for the governor's Clean California program. I actually have an agreement with Caltrans on my desk. I haven't had a chance to look at it or even delve into it. There might be some provisions in that to buy equipment, things like that. I would just ask that we're part of the conversation. As Supervisor Campbell said, just please include us. Staffing's going to be the hard part for us. Just because you have a video of an individual, then how do you identify that individual? Sometimes even if I have a great picture of someone's face, it's going to take some investigative time to figure out who that individual is. So just keep that in mind as we go. Once we get staff back up, we're going to be hitting this again. In the meantime, we are trying to get funding to do some cleanups as well. And it would be an inmate work crew that would do those. So
Thank you, Sheriff.
thank you.
Is there?
Supervisor Brandon, thank you for bringing this issue before the board. Cassandra Jenneke, District Attorney. My concern dovetails off of the one that was just expressed by the sheriff. While the purchase of these cameras may have been well-researched and thought out, my concern is follow through in staff time for investigation and prosecution. I came before your board a couple of months ago to express to you how overwhelmed my staff is. And I'll be quite frank with you, it's not lost on me that I was talking to you about increasing domestic violence in Tuolumne County this morning. And now I'm talking to you about what will typically amount to misdemeanor conduct for dumping. And so we really have to, I think, take some perspective on that piece when we're talking about dedicating staff time to these types of issues. I'm more than willing to be a part of that conversation. It needs to happen. Dumping is not happening in a vacuum in our county, right? It's related to a lot of different types of crimes. But if we're just talking about illegal dumping, absent it having chemically contaminated a waterway, we're talking about misdemeanor conduct. And so if that's something the board would like me to prioritize over something else, that's a conversation and a prioritization that I would need to hear from not only the board, but my constituents as well. So that's my 2 cents for today.
Thank you.
Thanks again for bringing this up. Certainly, I've heard you all that illegal dumping is a priority that you want code compliance to dive into. I did just want to remind you that in the presentation we made just several weeks ago that we collected from 18 to 21 just over $8,000 in solid waste fines. Those go into the Code Compliance Trust Fund. And that handles all types of abatements. So it doesn't necessarily go just to the solid waste fund because we use the Code Compliance Trust Fund for a variety of different types of violations. And again, I would echo my partners here that code compliance is a part of the process. Typically, when we have dumping situations, we would cite the property owner, and which may in this case not be the person who has done the dumping. But in some situations, there is a level of responsibility of a property owner to secure their property. I mean, that's part of owning property is taking care of it. So, I don't think it's a one-size-fit-all solution to illegal dumping. We're happy to participate, but again, we would ask that considering, echoing what Cassandra said, where does this fall in your priorities for us? If you want us to move and work on a program such as this, then other projects that I'm working on and that Brian's working on would be delayed. So we're happy to work at your direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so open it up. We kind of already started public comment, but is there any other public comment on this?
Well, I'll just say that should you decide to table something, doesn't exclude the public from commenting on it. This is a solid waste issue, And I see this as this should be going to the Solid Waste Committee and not coming to the board first. So I would like to see that happen and all these other people getting a chance to comment. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Anyone on the phones? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. We do have a motion that with a timeline attached to it, so I'm going to look to either the CAO or county council. Is it feasible, because it occurs to me that, you know, if we have a solid waste committee meeting tomorrow, we don't have enough time to agendize this material that's been brought to us today. So it would need to be on the next committee meeting, and so that would be after the 9th, so that still would not be enough time.
Correct.
Okay, so, all right, so there's a motion. Is there a
So,
second?
I'd like to amend my motion then to reflect, I think, the original intent, which it would be the next board meeting after a meeting of solid waste, which might be then the third, I would assume, board meeting of November? November 16th?
I'm sorry, I don't know when the solid waste committees take place off the top of my head. Second
Of the month.
Wednesday, so we're talking about you wouldn't be, so it'd be November, right? So if you do the 10th, and we could look at the 16th. However, that would mean we'd have to have the information soon enough to get it on the agenda. And I'm just asking questions so we know how to be prepared. Is it just to have a conversation amongst the five of you, or are you expecting staff to come prepared with a program? Because if that's the case, we will not be prepared by that date from hearing, the second Wednesday to the third Tuesday. Staff will not be prepared with a program for
I've
you.
never seen an item come before any committee and then have it all worked out in one meeting. I
Right.
don't think it's a reasonable explanation. I think we're all in agreement that we want to see some movement, but I don't see how that can happen in one meeting.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Unfortunate
We're
thing
getting
is
sort of hung
sometimes
up on the details of the timing on this.
Tabling things indefinitely sometimes means they don't end
okay.
up coming back up for discussion.
All right.
So to explain my motion.
I understand your motion.
I think it will bring
So-
it back so that we can be able to discuss it. And if
you
we
want-
need more information, we could then table it again in a very quick order to have that come up at a future meeting. It is really putting, I think, a bookmark in it to say we're keeping this conversation moving forward. And knowing, introducing this item, it would require more information from our partners and from staff. So I would find it compromising to that would be a reasonable accommodation.
I'm ready to move on. I think you have a motion, so I'm going to ask to see if there's a second. Is there a second for the motion on the floor? Okay, if there's no second, then I'm going to look to see if there's consensus to table this for a future board meeting.
I have another motion that I'd like to make that maybe is a compromise between those two, and that is to agendize an update, just so we know, just so the board knows where we're at this meeting that we've already mentioned. Not for any decision to be made, just so we kind of keep abreast of what's happened, because we're not all on the solid waste committee, and we're, whatever else happens, I would like to know where we are.
I second that.
And we don't make any decision. It's just an update for our own education.
Well, if you'd like, Supervisor Goldenberg and I could do that during our reports, if you'd like. I don't think it would be necessary to agendize it. I think we're
would
going
prefer
down a
discussion.
slippery slope of where we're being overly officious with committees. I think we need to have a certain level of trust that the committees are doing the work that they say they're doing. And if there is a desire among other board members to know what that work is, of course, we have to do it in a setting that accomplishes the Brown Act rules. And I think, reports is a good place to do that. I don't know that we necessarily need to be, to have it agendized specifically until we're ready to spend money or take some official action by the board. To me, that seems pretty unusual.
I'd be happy with any kind of update. I don't know that it would just specifically come from the solid waste committee. I don't know if there are other sources that would happen between now and then, but whatever kind of update would be better than none.
And perhaps Jim McCarhue could come during staff reports section and give an update on this as well. So I think there are many ways to accomplish this outside of.
I like the idea of Jim doing it in the staff report.
Yeah.
But I
So-
just,
I
I
think
just
that
want to
has
make
good merit.
sure that the board understands, under staff reports or under board reports, you could have no discussion about it. No questions, no follow-up, it's just them telling you. And I only bring that up so that everyone's under the correct assumption of what would take place when that occurs. So that's the only reason, and I was confirming with Sarah as well as you were talking.
Thank you, Tree. That's my concern as well, as I'd like to have an update, but if we have questions, be able to participate in that.
One concern staff has, it's something that Ms. Yaley spoke to. I just want to make sure the board understands that to come back on the 16th and an update is not necessarily going to be a problem. There probably won't be a lot of detail because the committee needs to do a lot more work. But there are a lot of other priorities your board has already given to us to work on. So that means we're going to be shifting our focus and putting a lot of effort into whatever's going to happen at the Solid Waste Committee and then bringing an update to your board. And if that's your board's direction, we'll absolutely do it. But if there are other priorities that you've already assigned to us that you want us to continue to work on, please just keep that in mind when you start setting these dates, because it does absolutely impact our ability to get the other items accomplished in your time frame. Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion that when Solid Waste Committee has a firm recommendation that they bring it before this board. I completely agree. I think our board's in full support that we like this idea, but if we start doing this, we're gonna start cherry picking our own things and bringing them before the board, and then we're gonna continue to be less efficient. So my motion would be Solid Waste Committee, come before the board when you see fit with a solid recommendation. And I think it's on enough of our radars that we know we're gonna be asking in 2, 3, 4 months, hey, where are we at with this?
I'll
So I
second
trust
that.
you guys.
Okay. So I have a motion by Supervisor Kirk, a second by Supervisor Haff. I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, so we made a motion to table until there's a report by the Solid Waste Committee. All right, thank you. So let's see, do we have anything else on our regular agenda? Apart from our 1 PM appointments, or 1:30 PM? So what I'm going to propose is we start with our first closed session item. I know that our second, there's a time element to it. We have an appointment with an outside attorney, but we can do item 9 in closed session. So if it's according to the will of the board, I'd say we go ahead and go into closed session now and do item 9.
Are we having public
Does that
comment?
work? Yeah, but I'm just seeing that, is that what's going on? Okay. So I'll look to the board clerk. Could you please read item 9 for us?
Item number 9, closed session conference with labor negotiators Tracy Riggs, County Administrator, Eric Earhart, Assistant County Administrator, Ann Fremd, Human Resources Risk Manager, and Kimberly Phipps, Senior HR Analyst Relief, Authority Government Code Section 54957.6, all bargaining units.
Okay, and is there any public comment on that?
Well, with all due respect to Supervisor Kirk, this is personal, and your staff is watching you. And they're seeing what you're doing, and they're watching your interactions, they're watching the comments that you make, and some of them have been quite insulting and offensive. And you've lost a lot of really good people for less than adequate pay. I believe Bob Price was, what, 42%? You know, and now you're offering people 15%, and your staff is watching that.
Okay, any other comments on item 9? Okay. Do we anticipate a report out? Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and go into closed session. Thank you very much, everyone. We will be back at 1:30 PM for 2 public hearings, and we'll see you then. Thank you.
1:30 PM, item number 1, public hearing to consider MacArthur 1, ordinance for zone change RZ 21-008 to rezone a 6.22 acre parcel from RE5 AIR residential estate 5 acre minimum airport combining to RE-3 FIR Residential Estate 3-acre minimum airport combining under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code.
Good afternoon, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Director. I am joined remotely by Natalie Rizzi, our staff member, Senior Planner. Sorry, Natalie, congratulations. And Natalie is going to be giving the presentation here today.
All right, let me just get my screen shared. All right, so again, I'm Natalie Rizzi, Senior Planner, and the project we have before you is Zone Change RZ 21-008, and the applicants are Stephen and Shirley MacArthur. The project consists of ordinance for zone change RZ 21-008 to rezone a 6.22 acre parcel from RE5 Air, which is residential estate 5-acre minimum airport combining, to RE3 Air, which is residential estate 3-acre minimum airport combining, under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code. The project site is located at 10834 Highway 49, approximately 1,600 feet west of the intersection of State Highway 49 and Shaw's Flat Road, within Supervisor District 1. The existing general plan land use designation of the site is homestead residential with the airport overlay, which is consistent with the proposed RE3 zoning. Here is a map of the project site and surrounding parcels. The proposed RE3 air zoning is consistent with other parcels in the vicinity, as indicated by the tan parcels shown on this map. The owners of 8 adjoining properties within 500 feet were notified of the project via mail on June 4th, 2021. These property owners were notified again prior to the project being considered by the Tuolumne County Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. The Community Development Department did not receive any responses. The project site is located within Compatibility Zone C of the Columbia Airport. Therefore, as required by Policy 2.1.5A1 of the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan and Section 18.24.040 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code, the project was referred to the Airport Land Use Commission, or ALUC. Zone change RZ 21-008 was considered by the ALUC on August 5th, 2021, where they recommended approval of the project and determined that it was consistent with the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. Zone change RZ 21-008 was considered by the Tuolumne County Planning Commission on September 1st, 2021. The Commission unanimously recommended approval of zone change RZ 21-008 based on findings 1A through 1D, with a vote of 7 ayes. No questions or concerns were addressed by the Commission or members of the public at the meeting. Staff has determined that zone change RZ 21-008 is consistent with findings 1A through 1D of the zone change application. Evidence in support of the findings can be found in the staff report. The decision process for zone change RZ 21-008. The Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors may approve the project with modifications, deny the project, or send the project back to staff for further review. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any board members have any questions? No? All right, this might be fast and easy. I'm gonna open up to public comment. To anybody?
Supervisor Kirk, could you open the public hearing as well?
And I'm opening up the public hearing as well.
Thank you.
Do I have any public comment? Anybody on the phone? Anybody in the house? All right. Well, I will take it back to the board. If anybody doesn't have any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
And before you do that, could you close the public hearing?
And I just closed the public hearing.
I'll motion to approve and staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, I have a first by Supervisor Brandon, second by Supervisor Goldenberg. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So 4 yeas and 1 absent. Supervisor Campbell. So the recommendation passes 4-0.
(1:30 p.m.) Item 2, public hearing to consider Timberline Environmental Services. 1, ordinance for zone change RZ 20-011 to rezone a 14.2 acre parcel from KMX General Recreational Mobile Home Exclusion Combining District to C-K Commercial Recreational District under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code.
All right, and Quincy, before we get started on this, I do have to make a disclosure regarding the property owner, Mr. Terry Northcutt. I ran it by legal, wanted to make sure everything was okay, but I wanted to bring to the board and to the public's attention, Mr. Northcutt. I do know him. I serve on Tuolumne Safe as a board member, where we do fire safe projects. So we sit on that board member, and he has made contributions to my campaign before. I ran it by legal. There was no conflict of interest. And I do feel that I can make a fair and impartial decision today. So I just want to make that in full disclosure.
Oh, great. Okay, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department Director. I'll be presenting this project before you today, although this was processed by our land use technician, Shady Gonzalez, and she did a great job, so she's not able to be here. This is zone change RZ 20-00011. And we always put this slide at the beginning of our presentations to remind the public and the board on the vision, mission, and values of Tuolumne County. One value that we embrace is to encourage innovative and creative approaches to problem solving. The project consists of an ordinance for a zone change to rezone a approximately 14.2 acre parcel from general recreational with a mobile home exclusion combining district to commercial recreation under Title 17 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code. The project is located at 28111 State Highway 108, and the general plan land use designation is Parks and Recreation, or abbreviated RP. The MX zoning designation, mobile home exclusion combining, does not exclude mobile homes. It's very mislabeled. It does not exclude mobile homes from being built on a property. It just restricts them to having a permanent foundation, and they have to be a certain age. So right now, that combining district is on the project site, and the request does not include to carry that forward. I just want to make sure the board and the public understand that no information on a proposed use for the site was indicated on the application, and we did not receive an application for any future development, such as a site development permit or a conditional use application. Here is a current map of the project site on the top. It's the nearly the triangle piece, and you can see the surrounding properties include mostly public land as well as some timber preserve and some U.S. forestry land. The highway does run just adjacent to the site to the north. So in processing this application, staff sent notices to adjoining property owners, and we received no comments from those owners. We did receive comments from Central Sierra Environmental Resource Center, Caltrans, and Environmental Health. We addressed those concerns or comments in our staff report, but the CSER concerns included opposition to the project because of lack of public water and sewer, as well as citing traffic and safety concerns. Caltrans commented on circulation and drainage, and EH commented on compliance with Title 13 of our ordinance code with respect to water and wastewater disposal. These concerns are addressed in our staff report, but I will review them in our presentation as well. So in the theory of presenting the 1, 2, 3, just wanted to make sure that the board and the public understand that staff is recommending approval of this project for the following reasons. That the proposed zoning is consistent with the general plan, that the proposed zoning will require an additional level of discretionary review, such as the site development permit, which is over and above what is required in the existing zoning district. And the last reason is that the infrastructure requirements are going to be the same under the existing zoning as well as under the proposed zoning. So all the requirements with respect to water, sewer, fire prevention, traffic, and circulation would be the same for a project that's developed on the property today under the current zoning, as well as for a project under future zoning. So just with respect to general plan consistency, Table 1.3 in the technical background report indicates that the proposed CK zoning district is compatible with the Parks and Recreation zone land use designation. It is not uncommon for multiple zoning districts to be consistent with one specific land use designation. We put a lot of information in the staff report with respect to consistency or interpretations of the general plan. I'm not going to go into every one of those policies here, but our goal was to be transparent about what does the general plan say and what doesn't the general plan say. And the project is consistent with numerous goals, policies, and programs. And while the general plan does say that special commercial designations do not require public water and public sewer, the general plan does provide flexibility on public water and public sewer for industrial land uses, as well as just other general commercial land uses. And the ordinance code also does not require public water or sewer for the proposed zoning district or the existing zoning district. And that's not uncommon in our general plan. A lot of our agricultural zoning districts also do not require public water, public sewer, as well as our rural residential districts. So staff believes that the project is consistent with the general plan and that finding can be made. Let's see if I can do this. So what we wanted to do was also show you, here we go. Oops, let me see, how do I get out of that? 1 second. Now it's really testing my skill set here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in just a second, but I'll give a brief overview. So we made a GIS map, thank you to our GIS partners. And properties that are outlined in purple, I'll zoom in just a minute, are commercial recreation, so it's the proposed zoning district parcels that are within what we consider a near public water, which is 300 feet in our zoning code. The properties in red are existing properties that are zoned commercial recreation that are not within 300 feet. So the purpose of this is to demonstrate to the board and the public that development that just came in, that would come in on an application in these zoning districts would be well outside the area of availability of public water and public sewer. So for instance, wrong way, in our Groveland area, we do have some commercial recreation properties that are zoned that do have public water within 300 feet. But we also have a number of parcels outlined in red throughout the 120 corridor that the general plan says could be developed with commercial development without public water. And in our 108 corridor, we have that same thing. Don't get sick yet, hold on. Where are we? So I think the point is made is that not all of our our commercial recreation zoning districts are near public water or public sewer. So the other reason why staff is supporting this application is because under the proposed zoning district, a site development permit would be required for most building projects. This would be a requirement that is not currently in our just general recreation zoning district. So general recreation, no site development permit if you come in with a building project. You just go straight to a building permit. Under commercial recreation, CK, if you came in with a development project, you would be required to go through a site development review process. So there's an extra layer of discretionary approval in the proposed zoning district that is not in the current zoning district. And lastly, with respect to infrastructure requirements. So when we would get a future project, whether it would be under a building permit or a discretionary permit, we would absolutely be ensuring that there's adequate water supply, a soil compaction test, geotechnical analysis is required. They have to meet certain wastewater requirements, and that could include an engineered system if the soils on the site were unable to perk. We would be looking at encroachment and circulation, grading and erosion control, as well as just general conformance with building, environmental health, fire, solid waste codes. So all of that would happen under a building permit. And in the proposed zoning district, when they come in for a site development permit, they would also have additional discretionary review that would include looking at the visual or the aesthetics impacts, hazardous materials, public services, fire hazard, and growth inducement. Those are just some examples. So there's additional review required in the commercial recreation district that is not required in just the general recreation district. And so again, staff is recommending approval of the project because it's consistent with the general plan. It requires an additional level of discretionary review over and above what's currently required, and the infrastructure requirements do not change between existing and proposed zoning districts. This project did go to the Tuolumne County Planning Commission on September 1st, 2021. Commissioner Nutting made the motion to recommend approval for the zone change based on findings A through D. The motion was seconded by Commissioner Santamaria, and that motion failed 3-4 to nothing, with no one absent. Commissioner Bile then made a motion to recommend denial of the project based on the fact that the current general plan and current zoning are already consistent with each other and that a new zoning district is not needed to develop the project site. The motion was seconded by Commissioner Morrow, and the motion was approved to deny the project 4-3. And I would just note that the recommendation for denial was not based on the findings presented in the staff report, but as I said, just by the fact that the zoning and the general plan are already consistent with each other, and they didn't feel that there was a need to grant an additional zoning district to the project. So the findings, if you would like to approve the zone change application today, are here before you, that it's consistent with the Tuolumne County General Plan, consistent with our ordinance code, and that the project site is suited to uses permitted under the proposed zoning district. Your decision process is to approve the project, deny the project, or send it back to staff for further review, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Supervisor, or Chair Campbell asked that I finish this portion off since we start off, but since he was absent, I just want to make sure he was aware, Supervisor Campbell, that Mr. Terry Northcutt, I disclosed at the beginning of this hearing that he does sit on Tuolumne Safe with me, which is a nonprofit for fire safe issues that we handle, and also he has made campaign contributions to me in the past, but I do feel, and I don't have any financial ties whether this passes or not, but I made it clear to the public that of that relationship, and I vetted it through County Council prior to this meeting, so just so you were aware. So with that being said, I'll open it up for board questions. Does anybody, I'll start with Supervisor Brandon. Do you have any questions?
Quincy, thank you for the very thorough review of the property. Economic development, very important to me, one of our board goals as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is the Little Sweden site, of course, right? Okay. And so that recreational purpose, I think, is it's a little rocky now to be able to go sledding down that, but finding another purpose for that has a commercial value, I think, could be really great. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that it would be going through a discretionary review process for design standards. Could you kind of explain a little bit more as to what design standards would be on this? I guess my concern is I wouldn't want a dollar store right along 108 as people are going into the high country there that's going to have a big old neon sign, and that we would be responsible for that zoning change. So what standards would be applied to that?
Sure, thank you for the question. So the proposed zoning district does expand the potential land uses on the project site to be more commercial in nature from just general recreational. I mentioned that it would come through a building project, development project would come through a site development review permit process. And that process would undergo a review by the California Environmental Quality Act, which does have specific questions and thresholds or criteria that a planner would look at with respect to views on aesthetics. There are no design standards for this corridor, and this corridor is not designated as a scenic highway by the state. So it would just be, it would be up to the lead agency, the county, to guide any project there with, to reduce any visual impact that the environmental document identified. So that could be It could be additional landscaping because it's adjacent to a highway that is locally important. It could be certain design elements to preserve skyline views or ridgeline views or things like that. So there is a review that would go on with respect to design, not specific design standards, but it would be reviewed under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful to know, because I know under CK, retail spaces, as my understanding, is a permissive use too. It's not explicitly recreational, but is more on the commercial side. Do we have any comment or more information on potentially what the idea is to be put there? And I guess the question to council is, are we able to ask about that?
When we opened, there was no information submitted to our department about what a proposed use would be on the site. The only application we received is a zone change, and so that's what we're processing.
Okay, do you have any outside comment? All right.
Are you asking?
Just, it totally optional, but if there's anything that clear that up, that'd just be helpful, but maybe I'm just being overly curious, so. With that, I think that's the main questions that I had. I am happy to see that there will be a review for water and sewer with that property. I know it's very rocky. I want to be able to see that that's a system that's going to be effective. Really surprising, it's not a scenic corridor. It's such a beautiful little drive up there too, but really appreciate answering those questions. Thank you.
So, thank you for the presentation. Well, my first question, I guess, is, so I note that the Planning Commission did ultimately deny the project, and on your documentation here, you state that that it was not based on findings A to D, but the fact that the zoning and general plan are already consistent and that a future project can occur under the existing zoning. So I guess I'm also curious, with no project identified, how did they come to that conclusion? I don't understand how the...
So thank you for the question. So, and let me make sure it's really clear that that the Board of Supervisors is the decision-making body for a zone change. And so the Planning Commission acts as a recommending body.
I understand that,
Okay,
yes.
just making sure that, so this isn't any appeal or anything like that. Without knowing what a project is, it would be similar to any other development project that would come to our office. So if a project was submitted tomorrow, we would look at the conditional zonings, figure out if it needed a use permit or a site development permit, and it would undergo CEQA. And so because the requested zoning district right now is consistent with the general plan and the general plan EIR, we didn't do any additional environmental review at this time for a project that may or may not exist. We relied on the general plan EIR, which says that the proposed zoning district is consistent with the land use designation that we already evaluated in 2018. So if and when a future project comes through, there will be additional CEQA done at that time to evaluate the impacts of that actual project.
Okay, I'm not sure that answered. So under the current zoning, can you describe what types of projects would be allowed?
Yes, I can. And actually, it's in the staff report. If you can look at attachment 3, what we did was list all of the things that are in the K district right now, general commercial, that are permitted, and sort of made a comparison, or at least put the information out there so that anyone who wanted to could compare what would be allowed differently in the proposed district. So we just focused on the permitted land uses because a conditional use is like, for a development project, we'll go through CEQA and we'll have a separate environmental review. So that lists all the in attachment 3, lists all the things that they can do permitted in the K district right now. And for example, let me just pick one. Recreational structures and developments. Okay, that's the third box down. That's
kind of the one that's pretty generic. I'd like
well,
to
it illustrates the point, though, in that you could build this as a permitted use right now with a building permit. If you wanted to build a recreational structure or development in the CK district, it's going to require a higher level of review. So it's permitted without a site development permit in the K district. And then it's permitted in the CK district, but needs more discretionary review. So this table illustrates the answer to the question of what is allowed in the K district and what is allowed in the CK district.
Right, so I'm looking at attachment 3, and I see, you know, the different lists. So, but that one area, the recreational structures and developments, is there like some square footage limitations there that typically is allowed, or?
Nope.
Can you just describe
So
that?
a limiting factor in any development is going to be your infrastructure. So that's going to be the biggest limiting factor, especially in a commercial development, because you're going to be required to have higher fire flow. You're going to be required to have a commercial well, a public water system if you're serving if a high number of people. You're going to have more infrastructure. Your roads are going to need to be wider. So the infrastructure actually limits how big you can build the project, especially on a site like this.
So both columns, you know, kind of lists the same there. And I agree with Supervisor Brandon. It's, you know, the location is, I'm very familiar with the location, you know. If somebody was proposing an actual project, you know, there would be a lot more things to consider, including visual effects, because that is a beautiful view.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you're driving up there looking across at the ridge. I'll withhold further questions until I hear from my other board members and perhaps public comment. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, the only I think I'm kind of where Supervisor Goldenberg was at with the planning commission issue. I was a little thrown by that. And I hate to add to the workload on this, but is it possible to send this back to the planning commission? Do you think it would there be some value bringing it back to the planning commission to address some of these concerns? Because obviously they felt that they had some concerns that weren't addressed, but it seems like some of that's covered here. Is that a possibility? Is that one of the options? Send it back to the...
I mean, they've made a recommendation of denial. They have the same information that you have. So there's been no substantial project changes. There's been no change in any information that's in the record. They have the same information that you had. So they would essentially be reviewing the same information. You know, the minutes are included. There's also audio. The planning commission did not ask many questions.
Okay, so you don't think the planning commission would find value in reviewing this again, is kind of what I'm getting at.
And Supervisor Kimball, if I could just add to that, I'm not even sure that it would be a legal requirement to send it back to the planning commission if there were some changes, if there were some modifications that your board proposed, but without those modifications, really what's before the board is to follow the planning commission's recommendation or not follow the recommendation. If you want to propose some modification, then you could send it back to the planning commission, but I don't see the utility or even really the legal option in doing that without a modification.
Okay, that's kind of what I was getting at. So without modifying what's being proposed here, we can't just kick it back to them and say, look at this again, try and figure out what your problems are, and then if they still come back with the same decision, then, so that's not a possibility.
And I would also just add to make sure that your board understands, because we haven't brought too many zone changes before you, but that you can, that the board is not able to condition the zone change. So you can't add anything to it. We will approve this, but you must do this, or we will approve this, but you can only build this. That's not a choice. So it's really just to either approve the project, deny the project, or send it back to staff. And if you send it back to staff, a lot of times, you'll give us direction, work with the property owner to da-da-da-da-da. So, that is an option as well if your board is unable to make a motion to approve or deny.
Okay.
Well, at this point, it seems pretty cut and dry that it meets all the, I don't understand what happened at the Planning Commission. And I understand this board's hesitancy to go against what they decided, but I don't see any reason not to approve this. I'd like to hear from the public comment before moving forward any, but that's kind of where I stand right now. It seems pretty cut and dried to me. And yeah, we don't know what project is going to go here, and maybe no project. Maybe this is being done. I'm just conjecturing why I would do that. It might make it better for sales purposes. So, you know, that part doesn't matter at this point. It's whether it meets the requirements or not, and I'm not seeing that it doesn't meet the requirements. So I would like to hear from the public, though, before final decision.
Okay, we'll open it up in just a second. I did go back and I did thoroughly read through the whole packet before. This is much more summarized. Thank you, Quincy. This is very simple and summarized, easy to read. And I had the same question, why did the Planning Commission vote against it? And Bile was the only one who said anything. Everybody else just made the motion with them. They didn't bring any other concerns. And so my only issue is just because, so Bile made the notion that existing, so they voted 4-0 against it, not based on findings, but cited existing consistency that exists is adequate, which is fine, but just because it's adequate, I would think that still the property owner would get, it doesn't preclude them from applying for that zoning change, just because what they have is consistent. So I'm with Supervisor Half as far as if the rules are being followed and the process is being followed and the staff recommendation is such, our Planning Commission didn't really give me any thorough reasoning or concerns. There wasn't anything I could see that was very substantial. So I would like to hear from the public comment on this, which we are going to open up. So with that, I have to open up public hearing. I'm already ahead of you. Look, I'm learning. So we'll open up public hearing. We'll start with anybody inside the room.
Thank you, Supervisors, for hearing this. I've got a whole laid out presentation I was going to give, but my name is Terry Northcutt. I'm a lifelong resident. I live about 2 miles up the road from this site. I own Timberline Environmental Services, and we also own what is known as the Little Sweden site. And Mr. Goldberg, you just exactly showed what happened during the planning meeting. Now imagine trying to do this by Zoom. It is confusing at best, let alone it doesn't offer this ability for exchange back and forth. And that's why there was confusion on it. I believe that's why it ends up in a split vote the way it did. I can answer a lot of your questions on this. Is that, as I say, having participated in a Zoom hearing on this, that is not the right forum to try to do this. All I'm trying to do is get the zoning back in line with what the historical use has been on this site since the 1920s. You've always been able to go up, you get a hamburger, you could have a drink, beer, wine, whatever. You'd have a place to stay. They had rooms at one point, and they had recreation, all on the same site since the 1920s. The way it sits right now, you can do 2 out of the 3, and you're almost choosing which ones you want to try to do. We're just trying to get back conducive to that. The only public comments that came out really against it were from, the same ones as you would expect that seems to come out against most projects in the county. The comments and concerns that were echoed at that point in time were, as you say, water, any type of sewer, this type of thing. And the same individual that made those statements was never on the site during any of the project. Our geotechnical people were. Condor Earth Technologies was on the site. Everything has been photographed. It has been documented. We now have over 300,000 yards. Was I on a timer when we did this? Sorry. Okay. We have over 300,000 yards of permeable soils on the site now. When you're looking at the boulders there on the face, all the soils were placed and compacted behind that. The soils that are out there were just for the shielding on the front of it. That's why you see that buildup. We do have water on the site. Our well was tested. We have over 30 gallons a minute right now without future development into a commercial application. All these things come before you if anybody comes up with any type of development plan. One thing to note as well, recently I was asked by CAL FIRE for permission to land their Sikorsky's on the site because it was not conducive to land them up on Bald Mountain with the other aircraft that were there. I gave that permission. And going forward, I plan on rocking one end of that property to a point that is conducive for emergency service vehicles, aircraft, and anything else that needs to use that site. I want this to be a benefit for the community. So that's reason. Are there any questions for me?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, maybe ask council because first time, but is there a way to extend, since it's so relevant to this, maybe finishing public comment and then bringing Ms. Northcutt back up to answer questions?
Yeah, typically, we don't hold the applicant to the 3-minute time limit for public comment. So, yeah, I don't see any issue with that, especially if you want to ask, questions, have a little bit of back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's don't we usually have 15-minute period?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I didn't, this is my first time. Okay? So you actually have a total of 12 more minutes if there's any other points or, I don't know if you'll need 12, but Terry, you have more time if there's anything else you'd like to speak
Well, I
about.
think it would be best served if there are questions from the board. I can stand here and tell you all kinds of stuff. I can tell you for a fact, I've grown up here. I'm not gonna let a dollar store end up by that highway. There's no way in the world. And if it takes me putting restrictions on any kind of future sale or any kind of future development, as the owner, I can do that. So it's not just through your folks, through any kind of a development review, which you have the rights and the ability to do. This is not circumventing any of your authority whatsoever. Anything that goes on that site with the proposed zoning, you have to approve. It's in your court. So you have that ability. We're not taking that away from you. We're just trying to bring it back into a line to what it has been in the past and what it can be in the future, which is beneficial for the community.
Okay. I want to ask County Council real quick. Can we do Q&As with him, or do we have to do a public comment first?
Is there other public comment?
Your board can choose to do either, and I would just also say that our standard practice is if you're going to be asking a lot more questions, that's not included in the additional 12 minutes. So whatever amount of time that your board may take would be additional time.
So I'll bring it back to the board to ask any questions, but before we do, I just want to make sure it's clear. This wouldn't be the place to put restrictions to say, okay, you can't build a Dollar General. That process, because I want to make sure that we're, as a board, we're careful not to give that type of direction. As stated, that process would come before the board at a separate time to speak to. So let's just make sure we're aware of that as we ask our questions.
I have a question, actually. This might be a question for staff, I'm not sure. So based on, what you said, bringing it back to what it traditionally, the traditional uses, do you know how it came to be that it was Zone K instead of CK? If CK was kind of more in line with the original use, and if you don't have the answer, that's okay, because we're talking about in the Wayback Machine and.
I do have the answer.
Okay, awesome. I knew you would.
The K zoning district was actually put on the site under ordinance 707 from 1973. So what would have happened is the Little Sweden activity would have been built and constructed before we had our current zoning codes that we have right now that would have required it to go through a different process. So, we would have considered that some sort of illegal non-conforming use, things that were constructed sort of prior to 1980, when we implemented our zoning code with our land use tables and things like that. Things that were built prior to that, such as Little Sweden, don't always match exactly to the zoning district that they have. Does that answer your question, Ryan?
Well, so in other words, CK did not cover at that time in the 1970s the areas that it does now. And so if they were rezoning it, so K at the time would have covered all of these purposes that CK covers now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the zoning ordinance from 1973, so I don't know. No, I don't. So I don't know exactly what were permitted and conditional use. I have it in my office, I just don't have it here. I don't know what those would have been in 1973, but in 1980 really is when our zoning went into effect for land uses. And so that's the current code that we work from right now. And so, if Little Sweden was there prior to 1980, it would have been considered a legal non-conforming use.
I didn't catch the last part.
Sorry.
It would have been.
If Little Sweden was there and it had restaurants and things that were not allowed in the K district when, as it was developed, then we would say it's legal non-conforming. So the sledding part is recreation, this is recreation, we would say that the other things that are not permitted in the K district, those would be legal non-conforming uses. It's possible in 1973, someone said the restaurant is accessory to the sledding hill, and so it didn't need to come through on its own permit. I don't know, but it has been zoned K with a variety of uses over the years since 1973.
Thank you. Appreciate the history lesson.
Mr. Chairman, I had a quick just point of order. We did open the public forum. I want to make sure, because part of it too is that might help spur some of the questions I might want to ask. If we were able to have the public forum, hear from anybody waiting, and then continue on.
I'll look for board consensus. You guys good with that?
I'd be supportive.
All right, so we'll open it up to public comment in the public hearing. If there's anybody in the room first.
Afternoon, John Buckley, CSERC. With all due respect, the way this entire hearing process is set up time-wise and the points that have already been shared before public hearing in support of it are reflective of how difficult it is to get balance in terms of community involvement in this county when it comes to planning. The Planning Commission was not confused. The project is in direct conflict with two general plan policies. If you read your packets, you know that very clearly. General Plan Policy 3E3 clearly states, encourage new industrial and commercial development in areas where a public sewer system is available or require evidence that there is a capability of functioning in a private system without any adverse public health impact. The site has no public sewer system, and no required evidence has been provided to show there's capability of functioning on a private system. That's clearly a conflict unless you choose to ignore the general plan. General Plan Policy 3A2 requires new commercial development to be served by public water systems except for development in those areas, including some that Quincy showed, that are designated as special commercial on the general plan land use diagrams. This site is not designated special commercial on the general plan land use diagrams. It is not served by any public water system. Rezoning it to commercial recreation, CK, is a second direct conflict with the general plan. Now, whether it's Supervisor Brand or another supervisor who's in support of development, that's great. No one's against development. I find it interesting to hear that our center opposes most projects in the county. As you're aware, it is very rare that we actually stand up and oppose. We do ask for changes and improvements. But this site is a site that is a lava cap on a ridge with a long line of rocks piled up with topsoil on top, is located in an extremely dangerous stretch of highway where numerous fatalities occurred. The project applicant already has general commercial where he can do on a site much of what was there before, but it's been vacant for 40 years. And this site is inconsistent with the general plan to allow commercial recreation at this time without information that shows that public water, or that private water and private wastewater can function on the site as it's now established. I urge you to follow the Planning Commission and to deny the proposed zone change as premature until there's a specific project and then adequate evidence that shows that the site can function for whatever project brings forward. You can't ask someone outside the planning process to speculate on what they may bring to you. That's not consistent with CEQA. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other public comment in the room?
You didn't think I'd still sit there, right? Hi, I'm Betsy Hurst, former member of the Visitors Bureau Board and president of the Board of Realtors, etc. I have the property listed for sale. People call and they want to know what was there. And then other people call and remember that it was the restaurant and the cabins. And I turned to Terry a minute ago and I said, in 1973, where'd all the poop go? You know, I mean, they had a restaurant and cabins there, and obviously there was some kind of a septic system already. And the water system already was sufficed, you know, the size that they could have that type of a business. It hasn't changed. Anyways, other people have called and expressed interest in doing something similar to what was there. I tell people, I grew up in Orange County. I was actually in 6th grade in 1973. And there was a restaurant up at the top of the hill called Orange Hill Restaurant. And it was a place where people went to for prom and where they went to for anniversaries. And it had a gorgeous view, just like this property does. And I think it would be an asset to our county to have our visitors have a place like that to go to and our local residents. And there's no project projected. I mean, nothing's proposed right now. It's just something that we want to be able to have people have an option to be able to do. Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment from the room? Okay, what about the phones? Are we on the phone? All right. Do I close public comment then? Or public hearing?
Yes,
I'm
both.
closing the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion. Supervisor Haff.
So now I have a question. And this is for Quincy. So assuming that somebody did come forward later, assuming we approve this project and somebody came aboard later that wanted to develop the property like it was with some cabins and a restaurant, wouldn't they? Oh, can't hear me? Okay. Wouldn't there still be a requirement to show adequate sewer and water for that project to be approved?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Any other?
Yeah, so
Supervisor
I had a
Brandon?
comment on that too. In general, in concept, I do like the idea of that being there, the jobs, the revenue that it would create. To John's point, I appreciate bringing it up. So my question would be, because policy 3A2 in our general plan is pretty clear, require new commercial development to be served by public water systems, except for development in areas designated as special commercial on the general plan land use diagrams. And looking at that, that seems to be very similar to the CK zoning as far as permissive uses. So what was the decision to request a change to CK instead of special commercial? Because it's seeming like it would, according to our general plan, have to be, and not, allowed for us to make a decision that it has to be a special commercial designation. Maybe, Quincy, if you can expand on that, and if you're willing to say what the reason was to upzone it to CK instead of CS.
So a general plan is a really big document, and it says a lot of stuff. And we always strive for internal consistencies to make sure that we're not contradicting any policies that we have written down. Staff went into a lot of detail in the staff report about how we've determined that this policy is consistent with our general plan, not just a specific policy in our general plan, but our general plan as a whole. There are several other policies, goals, and programs that would lend the board that lend staff, I'll just speak for staff, that lended staff to say, hey, there's language in this to support the project. And especially given the fact that there's no new infrastructure requirements that they wouldn't have to meet right now. I also think it's important to know that they could develop the property with a commercial use as in the K district right now without public water, without public sewer, because they could develop a school or a museum. Those would all just go straight to a building permit and wouldn't have any extra discretionary review.
Yeah,
So
I guess if I can kind of refine it in, I mean, if it was zoned that way already, I understand, but we're changing it to something which I know the general plan has a lot of elements, and it's a firm but general guide at some points. It just seems, can you talk about 3A2? Because I know staff is saying it is general, it's consistent with the general plan, but it does not seem to be consistent with the second point under our water element.
It's not consistent with that specific policy. It's consistent with other guidance in the general plan.
Okay, then I think I'm just confused of how we say something is in alignment with the general plan if it has things that are not in alignment with the general plan. I don't know, maybe could you explain a little more maybe on, if you wouldn't mind coming up, the difference between choosing it to be a CK or a CS property? Because that seems to be, I would assume, where the planning commission maybe had issues with it was that specific element. But we don't have to.
I'm sorry, are you asking me a question?
No.
No, okay, just, I was looking something up.
To the ether. Yeah, well, I'd love to hear the rest of the board's opinion on that. To me, this seems clear. It seems like it would be a good place for a project, but that it would have to be special commercial.
Anybody else have a comment? Supervisor Goldenberg?
Mr. Northcutt, maybe come back up here.
Supervisor Kirk, if we're going to be continuing to kind of elicit evidence from the applicant, I would recommend you reopen the public hearing.
I am reopening the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so you've done a lot of work on that property. You cleaned it up. You cleaned it up very nicely. There's fencing, boulders, you know, from all the problems that we had in the past, right? It was obviously dangerous. Fatalities, yeah. Well, probably because of all the issues of people parking on the side of the road. CHP, Caltrans, our sheriff's office, everybody had a problem with the property. So I commend, you know, what you've done with that. It looks good. It's very solid. It's obvious. And so, you know, the concerns over, you know, what the zoning could be used, you know, currently or not, that's where, you know, my former questions were, I'm sorry. You know, your comment that, you know, to me personally, that that's exactly what happened during the planning commission is, you know, kind of pointing a finger at me that maybe I was unaware of the circumstances. And quite honestly, I don't appreciate that.
No, sir, I was not doing that, honest. I was not criticizing you. I was just addressing the fact that there seems to be some confusion as to what exactly, because one zoning says it can, the other zoning is a layer on top of that. I was not in any way trying to insult you, honest.
Okay.
I was just saying, now imagine doing this on Zoom where you don't have the ability to have this back and forth and this interaction on it for the purpose of clarification. It was not in any way, I did not mean for you to take it personally. I apologize.
Okay. Well, point taken, and thank you for clarifying that. You know, the concern, you know, obviously, Ms. Hurst, you know, said the property's for sale. You know, so they're, you know, concerned that this is being done only to facilitate the sale is a question and you know, that comes up. But that doesn't really, from our perspective as a board, we're asked to look at a zoning change. And if a property came up later on with a future developer, whether it be yourself or somebody else, they would have a lot of steps, you know, to go through conditionally, you know, looking at all the various factors, you know, whether to address water issues, septic, and all the other items. So it, again, it's a very good location. You know, if a project was to come up there, you know, it would need to be looked at carefully to address those issues. But let me make sure here. You know, as far as CSERC, you know, Mr. Buckley, you know, I've seen him address projects, you know, pretty strongly. And in other cases, I've seen them, you know, bless projects. You know, so you know, just in looking at that, you know, I hate to see when we get into this, you know, contentious, you know, states. And, you know, we just really don't need that. So I've seen them come out for projects that I really did not think that they would, you know, support. And so That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Supervisor Campbell, you have anything else?
No, I'm still, yeah, I think it just, I'm still kind of looking at the planning commission, element of it. That just kind of threw me because it's sort of, if it goes through the planning commission and then it comes and they disagree with it and then it comes to us, why did we vet it through the planning commission in the first place? So that's a little bit of where I'm coming from on it, but yeah, I'm still opening to listening.
You have another,
Great.
Supervisor Brandon?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to revisit my previous question. We have Mr. Northcutt up here. The decision to apply for, because it seems like this wouldn't be an issue. If it was special commercial, then that's not an issue with the general plan under that section. What was the decision? Is there a reason it was applied for CK instead of CS or SC rather? Or no? CS, yeah.
That was just a recommendation from our legal counsel at the time, just bringing it back into compliance with the historical use of what it was. And that seemed to be the best way to do that. And as I say, it puts it under your observation, your purview, your review, whereas right now, as Ms. Haley has pointed out, there are many things that can be done just by getting a permit right now without having to have all the review. This opens it up for that scrutiny and so forth. Am I gonna be the one that's gonna develop this property? More than likely not. I'm getting too old for this stuff. But, we wanna see that there is maintained some control on it. Like I say, if I have to put controls on it in the event that it does sell, to prevent, like you say, the dollar store or something like that. And again, I'm not being insulting to dollar store either. But, there are things that don't belong there.
I hear you. I don't want to be going up
Yeah.
there seeing a Kmart off to the right on the
Exactly,
scenic vista.
exactly.
Maybe Quincy can you explain a little bit about maybe the difference between CS and CK? Why that might have been the recommendation?
So I pulled this up. This is out of our general plan, and this is what staff uses and we use to guide decision-making on what zoning districts are consistent with what general plan land use designations, okay? So can you see it okay? Do you want me to zoom it in?
I can see it okay.
Okay, so right now, I've got my cursor here, the project, too many things, Parks and Recreation, or RP. And this table, general plan tells us that there's 2 zoning districts that are consistent with that, that general plan, K and CK. And the EIR for the general plan is based on this column, essentially, like what did the general plan say at the time? And that's what was evaluated in the EIR. The site was evaluated to be Parks and Recreation. So if an applicant comes in and says, I'd like to do a zone change, we say, okay, well, what changes do you need to make? If you only ask for CK, if that's what you ask for, then you're still consistent with your general plan, land use designation, and we can use the general plan EIR for your environmental review, as long as there's no unusual circumstances. And so that often is what an applicant will choose because it's less onerous, less rigorous, and the environmental review was already done at the time of the general plan. Versus special commercial, that's a different land use designation. It has 2 different zoning, one different zoning district that's consistent with it. The CK is also consistent with special commercial, but so is that special commercial, and that's that policy you're seeing in the general plan. So if the applicant had wanted to go to special commercial, they would have needed a general plan amendment as well,
Okay,
in
'cause
addition to the zone change.
What I'm wondering is the current zoning seems to already cover recreational uses, and it's not, I would assume, not becoming a park. So it would fall under special commercial. So you're saying when the general plan is saying special commercial, that means special commercial or commercial recreation?
Zoning. Yep. When the general plan says the land use designation is special commercial, it doesn't have to be special commercial zoning. It could be commercial recreation.
Okay.
I feel like I should have brought a whiteboard. I'm really sorry if this is confusing.
So is this what you're saying, why it would be consistent with,
Yeah, so this is why
3.1 or
yep.
3.2A?
Yep, this is one of those
3A2.
things that, where we look at the entire general plan, not just one policy, and I'm not sure, and, you have to be careful as staff that you're not picking and choosing which project you use one policy for, which projects you use all the policies for. You have to be consistent with how we evaluate these things. So we look at the whole general plan on every project. So it's this table, as well as the other policies that are highlighted in the staff report of why we're just making a recommendation of approval.
Okay. This would be very helpful also in the future, because I didn't know there was a whole separate zoning title classification outside of the ordinance code there. And this is something that's not recent. This has been in use for a long time, I assume.
When we did the update in 2018, we did not change what was consistent with what. So that was done prior in probably the 96 general plan or prior to that. So in the 2018 update, there were no changes for what zoning districts are consistent with what land use designations. That all stayed the same.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know, because there's other stuff, but it's not relevant to this to be able to talk about.
Yeah,
I
this
appreciate
is
it, 'cause
part of a
obviously
big document.
we want to be following our general plan and consistent with that, so it's
of
important
stuff.
to do it, because I like the idea of something, make it beautiful, make it not Kmart, but something good there, but that it's consistent with the policies we set. To me, this seems to answer the question of why I was having confusion with that, so I'd be ready to vote. Thank you.
So with that being said, I will close public hearing, bring it back to the board. I think we've all had a chance to chime in. I'll just close by saying, he can already develop and build on this land. It appears what he's applying for, the zone change, whatever might come about that in the future, is going to be highly scrutinized or reviewed at a later time, should some sort of development come up. So I'm fine with that. And I understand the general plan. There may be words and verbiage in here that may contradict some of it, but I think the overall general plan encourages such changes. And I mean, looking at policy E3E, it actually says the word encourage new industrial commercial development in areas of public water is available. So although we would always love to encourage that, living in a rural area, we understand that, as the map showed, the red piece, there's going to be situations where it's not feasible. So anyways, all that to say, I appreciate staff time on this and your recommendations. And so with that being said, I will, unless there's other comment, I'll bring it to the board for a vote or for a motion.
I'd like to move on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion by Supervisor Half, a second by Supervisor Brandon. All those in favor say aye.
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 And any opposing?
No.
No.
Do we need a majority or a 4/5? Majority. Okay, so the motion passes 3-0 with Supervisor Half, Kirk, and Brandon as ayes, and Supervisor Campbell and Goldenberg noes. We're done? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to bring us home, or you
Take it away,
want
Chair.
me to take it away? You
Yeah,
want to take it
away.
back? Okay. I'm fine either way. You did a great job, so. Okay, so what's left did we, now, are we still, okay, so we'll do reports, but before that, I just want to clarify, are we still needing to have discussion on Conference of Labor negotiations?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need to reread that item? Okay, but we will need to read item 10. Okay. All right, do we have any reports from CAO Riggs? Okay, she vigorously shakes her head, no, okay. County Council?
The only report I have is that we have an opening in our office for an executive legal assistant. It actually closes tomorrow, but we're hopeful that if some people are interested, they can go to the website and apply. So thank you.
Okay. Boy, I really should keep track of where, I don't know, do you want to start, Supervisor Kirk?
No, just,
I need to keep a,
no, business as usual,
I need to put all your names on the desk and then just scratch
right?
a check mark next to you.
Committees, commissions, business as usual. I'm working on a few things, but I'm not gonna report out on them until they're complete, so.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, Supervisor Goldenberg?
I have nothing further to report since our last week. Thank you.
All right. Supervisor Half?
There we go. Just maybe one or two things. The first thing is I just wanted to notify all of you and the public that I've been working on the U.S. Capitol Christmas Tree Project. It is coming to our fairgrounds, the actual tree that will be displayed at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. It's coming for a community reception here on November 3rd from 5 to 7. We've got some save the dates out there to remind people to save the date. It'll be especially wonderful for children and their parents. But we'll have a full agenda out hopefully by sometime next week where people can see how exciting it will be and fun to come to this reception. I just wanted to make sure I put the word out here that Christmas is coming in November. You know, I have other things that I'm working on that are in the wings, but nothing else to report on at this time.
Supervisor Brandon?
Since our meeting last week, and a few other events and happenings, had a meeting discussing with some local advocates on how to be able to get more housing locally, especially workforce housing. Had a great meeting with CSERC and John actually for coffee last week, and a meeting with Daniel Gerhardt, who is the superintendent of the Parks District out of Columbia. That includes not only Columbia and Railtown, but I believe an 11-park district, and so she's the head of that entire system. Seeing how we can be more supportive in asking for any funding from legislators in Sacramento and looking at how we can partner, as well as our normal Behavioral Health Advisory Board meeting. On Thursday, I got to go see some trees get nommed with the 2Care annual tour, masticator, some really interesting equipment that's just under $1 million each. It was really impressive to see how they actually do the thinning and the clearing. And I really appreciated the opportunity there. Number of other local electeds and some officials, actually from at least 3 counties, were all there. So that was a really great experience as well. I was able to have a really nice visit with a friend of mine. He's my professor of medical ethics and epidemiology from college. Came up and we were able to talk about everything that's happening and see each other again, which is really cool. I attended a celebration of life, of course, for our dearly lost employee, Haley Hurst. That was up at the Sugar Pine Lodge on Saturday, and it was a really beautiful ceremony. It had probably 150 people there, and the stories were just very touching. They were very moving. You could tell, I didn't know her personally, but she was a light in a lot of people's lives and very dedicated. She had a lot of people that she served through WIC, a lot of fellow staff members, a lot of friends, a lot of family come up, all the way from childhood. And so it was a very special event, and she's going to be really dearly missed. The following day on Sunday, did a big cleanup. There's a number of homeless encampments on the Law and Justice Center property that were accumulating some garbage there. There's no garbage service program for that area. So I went out with one pile at a time, and we hauled away quite a few loads of garbage. As well as did a meeting up at Resiliency Village to see the progress that they've made at that site, just look at what's been happening, what the improvements have been done. And from there, had a discussion on the community grants program with Jason to make sure that we're moving forward with that in a good, logical way. Gave my input, meeting with some constituents in Jamestown about some things that are coming up related there. And just appreciate attending Supervisor Goldenberg's Commission on Aging meetings as always as the alternate, just to keep informed on that. Definitely highly encourage it. Always like to be able to just be a fly on the wall in there. Other than that, see you next week.
Yeah, and I also attended the funeral with Supervisors Brandon and Kirk for our employee that passed away. And also on that Saturday, I was up on Yankee Hill talking to the nice folks that live up there on behalf of the Fire Safe Council. There's a project that they were awarded a grant for, and I think we've discussed this up here, so I don't think I'm sharing any secret information, but the Glenn Gotcha, who was heading that program, had a heart attack and was not able to attend, so I attended in his stead. Fortunately, he's back at home again, recovering, so in fact, I'll probably be swinging by his house after we leave here. But in discussing with the neighbors up there, they're very excited about the project, and over these years of doing these types of fuel reduction or tree mortality projects, the way that I've found that's effective is you get everybody, all the neighbors together, and you talk about what the plan is, and generally one of the biggest hurdles is getting people to sign right of entry forms that allows work to be done on private property or rights of way through private property, various things. But if you get everybody all together, you get that peer pressure element. So the majority of the neighbors are going to be in favor of it, and that tends to make everybody kind of see the benefit it is going to be for the entire community. And fortunately up there, they have a very strong neighborhood. You know, they're kind of isolated, so they rely on each other a lot more than your regular kind of subdivision. So we had a really good meeting, a lot of excitement about that project going, and we're hoping to do similar types of projects in both kind of the middle camp to Brentwood Park area, and then Crystal Falls in my district are the ones that I know about and I'm working on directly. Other than that, oh, and one other thing that I wanted to mention is we had a special Citizen Fire Committee meeting on Wednesday. I was in attendance with Supervisor Goldenberg and many of our local fire chiefs. Discussed a moratorium on sirens, and so that's going to be coming to the board next week. Is Dory here? Am I correct? Yeah. And so I think the whole point of it is kind of more for the communication between the different entities that will have to manage these things, and so our board will have a chance to weigh in on that and kind of get a clear sense of what we want to do. So that's coming down the pike, and then. Yeah, I think that's all. I think I'll finish it right there. Oh, I also got my flu shot. So if you haven't gotten your flu shot, please go out and get that. We have regular clinics through Tuolumne County Public Health, and it's free. So no reason not to go take advantage. And I understand I skipped our board clerk for reports, and she does have a report, so I apologize. So you're going to get the last word.
Oh boy, lots of pressure. So it's not a usual thing for me to have a report, but I did want to report out so that the public could hear it and be made aware ahead of time. Coming up on November 9th, your board staff is working to provide Zoom as public comment. We had a couple of requests from the public to do this. We have worked together under Tracy's direction with our IT department to make sure that we have the technology in place. Your staff has trained on the technology so that we can use it and provide that hopefully as seamless as possible. But we do have backup plans. All that will be in our public participation procedures. It will be posted online for the public to see, not only on our website, but on our social media. And we will be available as staff to answer any questions that people may have. We want to make this another way for your board to hear public comment and to hear from the public while using the products that we already have available to us. So there's no added cost. It's just a little bit of staff training, and hopefully everyone will enjoy the changes that we've made.
And thank you very much for your efforts in bringing this forward. I think it's going to be very well received by quite a few members of the public, so thank you.
I agree. A lot easier to participate.
Okay, so, okay, well, thank you very much for that report. And with that, we'll go back into closed session. We're going to finish with item number 9 and then go into item number 10. So I'll ask our clerk to go ahead and read item 10 for us.
Item number 10, closed session conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Authority Government Code Section 54956.9D1, National Prescription Opiate Litigation, United States Direct Court for the Northern District of Ohio, Eastern Division, case number 117-MD2804-DAP.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any public comment on item 10? And I guess I will also open it up for item 9 as well, if there's any additional public comment on item 9? No? Okay, all right. If there's no public comment, we'll go ahead and, Den, do we expect a report out?
No.
Okay, so we don't expect reports out, and there's no public comment, so thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and end the public portion of the meeting, go into closed session, and then we will adjourn after that point. So thank you very much.